Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here at The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and returning once again, Viviana Vigil. Welcome to The Damage Report.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. Wish it was all sunshine and flowers news for you, but unfortunately it's not. It's been a bit of a rough period in terms of international news. Obviously, they're talking about the chaos in Afghanistan, which we'll be talking about in a moment. But I mean, that came after a couple of solid weeks of, it seemed like there were natural disasters hitting every corner of the earth, fires and floods and all of that. So it's been a bit of a rough period, but how have you been?
I've been actually pretty good. It's been a little crazy here in Los Angeles with the numbers going up in COVID. I've had several friends vaccinated and not getting this Delta variant. Personally, I was vaccinated in early January. So I'm actually really interested in the booster shots when I can get it. Continuing to protect my family members. I have a 96-year-old grandmother. I have an 83-year-old father. So like I'm a little bit concerned about those kinds of things. But other than that, things are going pretty well. I was telling you earlier before we went live about my dog saving me from a rat. He's almost 15, he's geriatric, but he's still got it.
He's still got a few moves left. Okay, that's good.
He's still got a few.
You know what, speaking of dogs, I don't know if people can hear them. I can hear the two dogs that I have in the studio walking around. So perhaps at the end of the program, if we get enough likes on the stream, I will show you one or both dogs. But we also already know that I will never remember that. So I'm gonna put it on Sophie, the producer who's on right now. If she reminds me at the end of the show, I'll do that. If not, it's her. She hates dogs. Why? Maybe we'll do a poll eventually. But anyway, Thank you everybody for being here. I'm totally joking. She loves dogs. Anyway, thank you everybody for being here. We've got a lot of news planned for you over the next 90 minutes. And you know what's coming up after those 90 minutes? I know what you're thinking. Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, and that is true. But also with me, I'll be joining him for Indisputable, so that should be a lot of fun. But anyway, as we go through this process, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, sharing the stream, that'd be great. And you can send us comments, tweets, super chats, all of that, and we'll respond as we go. But with that said, Viviana, are you ready to jump into this?
Roll it, John.
Okay, let's do it. No, that was the best response to that question I think I've ever gotten from a co-host, but unfortunately it's to lead into this story. So
true. No. Sorry about that.
Save that for like the Tony Hawk thing we're doing later.
You know what, John? Let us have it. We're dying to know this information, so I'm sorry about that.
Okay, let's do it. No, you're not in the wrong. Anyway, as I am sure you're aware, as we are doing this show live, we are getting the early information from the at least 2 explosions that rocked the airport in Kabul. It was also, there was gunplay as well in the area. And we're gonna give you these initial details, but understand that anything we say here should be taken with a grain of salt because details, sometimes clash between sources and it can be controverted by information that comes out later. So bearing all that in mind, at least 2 blasts rattled the area outside Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul on Thursday, according to the Pentagon. Just hours after there were warnings that you might have seen. That itself was breaking news that they were asking for people to leave the area because they thought some sort of threat was imminent. Now, we don't know exactly the numbers of injured or dead. Reporters at a nearby emergency room said that at least 20 people had been brought to the site. And so, as I said, this followed up warnings. The US Embassy in Kabul had advised citizens to avoid traveling to the airport and said those already at the gates should leave immediately, citing unspecified security threats. And a senior US official had warned last night, our time, of a specific incredible threat by an affiliate of the Islamic State Khorasan or ISIS-K against the airport. Despite such a specific warning, considering the crowds of literally thousands of people, if it was a suicide bomber, and we don't know for sure that it was, it is easy to understand how difficult it would be to actually find a person in all of that chaos. And it's a terrible situation because of course, they get the intelligence about a possible attack, Viviana, and they want to clear people out, but those people are terrified about not being able to get out of the country. They understand that there's only a few days left where the US is, as of right now at least, going to be involved in getting people out. They might worry that if they leave that area, they'll be at more risk of the Taliban doing something to them. But if they stay, something like this could happen, and indeed did. So Why don't we bring up this map as we talk a little bit more? You'll be able to see a bit of the geography of the area. But Viviana, bearing in mind that of course this just happened, what are your thoughts?
I mean, immediately, my heart, it's horrific. My heart goes out to everyone who's affected by this. The fear alone, even if you weren't at the airport when this happened, just the fear alone of being in this kind of destabilized area. It's really just, and I know you've talked about it before, it's just like, this is what US imperialism does. I mean, this is what happens when we do not care about people of a country. We looked at the panic that set in here with people trying to buy toilet paper. I can't blame somebody for going to the airport. I can't blame somebody for saying, well, people left, people were flying out. You might have a chance. If you stay home, then that might be your last chance to get on that plane, especially knowing that the US is continuing to close everything down and ship out, literally. So I really, it's not an easy solution. This is something that was started by the Trump administration, and don't for 1 second think that they weren't handing this power to the Taliban. And
you're talking
Biden
about the
is saying,
pulling out there, yeah.
Yeah, and Biden was saying that not that they're responsible for it, obviously, this explosion, but Biden is saying the buck stops here. But I feel like either side, blue and red, both have interest financially in this region. So whatever's happening is not by mistake. I just hope that Biden stays true to his word about the buck stopping there, and not with military support, but with the UN coming there for humanitarian aid. It's very sad to me when I see the ISIS-K soldiers. They're like 12 years old. They are so young. I don't know if you've seen any of the footage, John. I look at them and I'm just like, what is happening over here? These are young people fighting. I mean, they're following orders. We haven't seen what's really gonna play out here, and it's very, very upsetting. I was very upset to see that news this morning. We knew it was kind of coming though.
Yeah, and look, we're saying that is who officials in the area are saying is responsible or is believed to be responsible, but we obviously have no idea, and I can't even assert to what extent the people relaying this information have any idea. It certainly seems credible, but it's not the only potential explanation for how this might have happened. I mean, the entire thing is madness. Whether it was them or whether it was the Taliban, like in theory, the people that are fleeing are the people who don't share your values anyway. The whole thing is just obvious madness. Any sort of mass casualty, incident like this is going to be. I wish that there had been a way that they could have, like beyond just warning people, that they could have protected them better. But I mean, we've known from the very beginning that you get this huge crowd of people together, and there was the possibility that something like this could happen. Particularly because of how the security situation there has changed from the fall of the Afghan government to now. So to demonstrate that a little bit, I want to go to a bit of video from reporter Charlie D'Agata, who's in Kabul talking about what's happened.
We believe the attack happened at Abbey Gate, and that's where there are US and British soldiers on the inside perimeter of the airport. And you have Taliban forces and Afghan forces who are also trying to provide some level of protection around the airport itself. It is a large-ish, complex place. There are 4 main entrances, as Ed was discussing earlier. But there are several roads reaching the airport, and especially now, it used to be a nightmare to get there because you'd have to go through 10 or 12 checkpoints, Afghan security checkpoints, to get anywhere near the airport. Obviously, those checkpoints are gone, and the US and the Brits have done what they can to sort of reestablish an inner perimeter to that airport. But as far as the outside, it is permeable.
Yeah, and there were the explosions, there was gunfire, there's the possibility that there could be further attacks. There are still several days that this is going to be going on. And of course, the effort to get people out, or people trying to get out, is not going to stop as soon as the United States is no longer there or the soldiers back out. But I'm already worried about how, Viviana, how some in the US media will respond to this. I mean, the media coverage of Afghanistan has already been thick with people who were involved in getting us there and want us to be there for the rest of, the rest of Earth, basically. And so they'll use this. They'll say, well, look, there's violence, because we didn't expect that there would be violence. So, we got to send more soldiers and that sort of thing. I expect that we're going to see a lot of people making that sort of case.
7 out of 10 deaths in the US.
I'm sorry, guys.
No worries.
Computer's doing its own thing. But to your point about not knowing for sure what exactly is going on over there right now, I do think our best bet of having truth and reporting is going to be now, before the Taliban takes over even more and starts controlling what news is being released. So, I feel like there are a lot of people who are okay with seeing this happen, even though in front of the cameras they're going to say they're not. Nobody wants to see suffering of humans. I don't think that there's anyone out there going, yeah, that's what I want. But I do think that they think it's a necessary evil, because when you practice US imperialism, you are okay with this kind of violence taking place because the end justifies the means. And it's really sad. We're going to see a lot more. Yeah. And the embassy, I feel like they might have known this was going to happen already. The embassy said just yesterday, get away from Abbey Road. If you're there now, get out of there. I mean, it was listed there on the warning, and I can't expect for people to have taken that, and just run with it, because what are your options? Especially you see there is some protection there. You see that there are some US forces still there. You see that there are Afghan forces, and you're hoping that that's going to protect you. I think there's more of this to come, and it's really horrific for the Afghanis.
Well, and again, these numbers are going to change, and sometimes things get reported and are totally reversed. But originally I had seen that 3 US Marines had been injured. Now I'm reading in the Wall Street Journal that 4 US Marines had been killed. The Taliban had said 13 people, including a child, had been killed, including some of their own soldiers had been injured, which is one of the things that's leading people to believe that it's ISIS-K rather than Taliban, which seems to make sense. I don't think that's necessarily a lock, but so yeah, the death toll is going up every time we get more news out of this.
But the Taliban is actually known for creating these offshoots, so this might be within their plan as well, to kind of create more instability and more. Well, look, we'll protect you from ISIS-K. We can do that. There's a lot going on here that we don't know yet.
That's beyond my knowledge of the.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what we do know, at least going into all of this, and this is information coming from before the 2 attacks. Obviously, there are a few more days where they're going to be trying to get people out of Kabul. An estimate had been put together trying to figure out how many people, in theory, might have directly aided the US occupation that might now be vulnerable and need to get out. That's obviously not everyone who is vulnerable, but it's the definition most in the media and the government use. And so if you look at this, there's the current pace of the evacuation, and they believe that by the 31st, they'll have been able to get out 200,000 people potentially. As of like before this attack, we had gotten out 82,300, which is a lot of people, admittedly. Almost certainly this is going to slow down the pace, at least for the next day. And as I said, there's a possibility of more attacks. So that could result in tens of thousands, at least thousands of people not getting out that otherwise would. And they say 250,000 Afghans that might be eligible for US visas based on their history might still be there. And so only a small portion of the total amount have been evacuated, even if in absolute terms, it's a lot of people.
I have confidence that all of the Americans will get out. I do not have confidence that all of the Afghanis that do want to leave are going to be able to. That process is notoriously difficult, and there's all kinds of red tape, like, oh, well, you didn't stamp this, so you don't have this one form. You're at the back of the line again. So I really hope that that's streamlined. If the buck stops here, Biden, then get these people out. The people that want to leave, they should be able to leave.
Yeah. Well, look, our team is going to be watching for more updates on this, but we are going to go to our first break. We come back, we're going to be switching gears and talking a little bit about some of the continued fallout from January 6th. We'll have that for you after this. Okay, everyone, let's see what's going on out there. First of all, Ernest Johnson over on YouTube, thank you for becoming a Tier 1 member. Much appreciated. Thank you for being part of this. Andrew Allman says, Seth Meyers mentioned The Intercept in his latest Closer Look segment. It made me happy. That's cool. I think The Intercept should be getting much more mainstream recognition. They do a lot of great reporting. Ken Klippenstein is amazing. So that's good. Chris Nesbitt says, super chat for the long-suffering Sophie. She'll be fine, don't worry about it. You're really gonna defend someone who has such a long track record of hating dogs? Okay, you can go in that direction, I suppose.
Why?
I want it added to her Wikipedia.
Why would you do that to someone?
I'm totally joking, she loves dogs. Okay, so I noticed I've been keeping track of Twitch. So we've had a number of different resubscriptions I want to give recognition to. So the Chicken Fried Dragon subscribed for 14 months, says, nice to see Johnny Tenders is growing out his beard. Yeah, look, at any given day, I'm gonna get frustrated by the experience and trim it down. But what's causing this is, if you've been following my Instagram, Google is prompting me with the 4-year anniversary of a bunch of different things I did in the Arctic when I had longer facial hair. And so, I don't know, it made me kind of nostalgic, but it is annoying. And so it's probably not gonna last. Anyway, Kelly June subscribed for 13 months, says, I love my Dragon Squad family. I love the damage report. Also, my husband Bob is home today and he loves you too. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Bob. That's very nice of you. Avenger Dragon 89 hit 12 months of a gift subscription courtesy of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Thank you to both of you. Says, thanks to Obi-Wan Kenobi for my gift sub. Very nice. Unprecedented Madness subscribed for 6 months, says, yay, 6-month adversity. Hello, Dragon Squad. I'm working from home today and actually get to listen live. That's awesome. I hope you'll be able to listen to Indisputable live as well, where I'll be joining the good doctor. Minnesota Patior subscribed for 7 months, says, love you guys. Thank you for doing everything you do to keep us informed with the truth. Thank you. Okay, Ray Turner, AKA the Bearded Dragon, said the civilians being left behind are often workers and NGOs and charities that are meant to remain behind to aid the transition and other issues. Yeah, look, I'm glad that you're acknowledging that. I don't think that the government is necessarily confused about that. But I get what you're saying. Stephanie Etchard, thank you for becoming a tier 2 member. You get access to our top 10 list with that. Okay. Over on Twitch, Technauseated said, how much do you want to bet that when COVID-19 vaccines are okayed for children, there will be protests at places giving the shots to them? Vanilla ISIS, Gravy Seals, and Meal Team 6 playing cosplay army men with their AR-15s and camo hot dog holder vests. Geez, you're not a fan of those militia guys, are you? But yeah, Viviana, I would expect that if they ever do authorize the vaccine for kids, which so far they have not, there's millions of Americans that are not going to have it. They're not going to allow it.
They're already boycotting the masks. So imagine the vaccine. They don't want them to wear a mask. My nephews are back in school. I have a 5-year-old nephew who's in kindergarten wearing a mask, no problems.
Is he a superhero? How could he do it? Yeah.
Well, he does think he's Spider-Man, so yes.
That's awesome. Honestly, the government should just send out kids masks that make them look like Iron Man and like She-Hulk and stuff like that. People would love it. It'd be like the most popular thing. Do a collab with Fortnite and do a bunch of, like, you could do like banana mask and stuff. Kids would love it.
John, I think you got a new business idea. I think
I am going to drain these kids of every cent they have so that they can look like a creeper in Minecraft or something. Or what are kids like?
If Fortnite is doing it, then you can do it too.
Sorry, I caught it. Anyway, hello everybody. Glad to be back. I'm here. We've got Viviana as well. We got a lot to talk about, so why don't we jump into this? Since the beginning of this year, the right has wanted to know, who is it that shot Ashli Babbit? Well, apparently they're about to find out. The police officer who fatally shot Ashli Babbit, who took part in the pro-Trump invasion of the US Capitol, will reveal his identity for the first time in a televised interview set to air Thursday evening. So just later on today, the mystery will finally be solved. So if you're not familiar with this and why the right cares so much, let's go through the history. Babbit was part of a mob of Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol, tried to climb through an opening in a broken glass door outside the speaker's lobby, which leads to the House chamber. The officer who was inside the lobby drew his service pistol and shot Babbit once in the left shoulder, causing her to fall backward onto the floor. She was transported to Washington Hospital Center, where she died. And so she has been lifted up by the right as a martyr who was killed, like, depends on who you talk to and when, by a member of Pence's security detail or Antifa, or it was a false flag or whatever. personally, I think the reality is dark enough that a member of the Capitol Police shot and killed someone. That seems bad without adding in, aliens and lizard people and stuff like that. But anyway, Viviana, he is going to have this interview. It's with Lester Holt, 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, set to air just 3 days after the US Capitol Police Department announced that it would not discipline the officer following an internal investigation. The DOJ also previously said it would not pursue criminal charges against the officer, who at that point their identity had not been disclosed. So we're gonna have an interview. There's no charges, at least as of right now. We'll talk about a few other potential cases, but what do you think about this decision?
The decision to not charge him, or the decision for Lester Holt to interview him? I mean, I'm glad he didn't get charged. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't get charged. I think it's pretty expected that if you storm a government building, you're gonna probably get hurt in some way. I've said before that I think that this woman and many of the QAnon supporters that were there on January 6th are or were suffering from some sort of mental delusion, some sort of illness where they went along with this group ideology and putting themselves in danger. I mean, you have to really be kind of a little bit off to think that nothing's gonna happen to you when you do it, or unless they were fed information that we are still trying to find out. They were told that nothing would happen to them. The fact that Lester is going to be interviewing this officer, I think is interesting, because we don't hear interviews with officers who are involved in these kinds of fatal shootings all the time. So why this one in particular? I think it's also dangerous for the officer to come forward. So that's a concern for me as well.
Yeah. So look, there's a few different areas of this that I'm interested in. One is, obviously, this cop, at least for the next few years, is gonna have to worry about some crazy right winger murdering them to avenge Ashli Babbit, who they didn't know and don't know anything about. And so the obvious follow-up question is, so why? Why come out and do this? Well, look, obviously there's potential that it's a money thing or whatever, but I also think it could be that if they have reason to believe that the identity is about to be revealed anyway, why not at least be the one to do it with an interview rather than just having it be, like the opening monologue on Tucker Carlson? Or that once the actual commission, the hearings proceed in the House, that as a result of whatever, either just the normal process or right-wing representatives, they might reveal his name. So again, maybe it's like taking control of the timing and the narrative. But no matter what, like after this cop obviously is going to have security. Like,
yeah,
the right is out of their mind and is desperate to kill this person. And if they do, Trump is gonna put out some statement about how, people get mad, it's justified. Like I know, like it's such a dark time when it comes to political violence. So I don't know.
It is. I think a lot of these Capitol Police officers have tried to come forward to sort of plead with the public, like, hey, especially these Blue Lives Matter people, like that's what you're all about, right? So they've come forward and been like, we were scared, we were this, and no one cared. Is this interview gonna make a difference for the extreme right? Are they gonna have sympathy for this man who took the life of a woman because he was doing his job? I don't like to see violence from police officers across the board, but there are some times when you can kind of understand how it happened. I think we'll be talking about a case situation later on where you don't understand. And so this is, I think it's important to talk about. I'm glad you're bringing it to light here on your show, John. I just hope there are some people listening who actually see that these cops were, not supported. These Capitol Police officers weren't given the proper support, the people behind them, the weaponry, whatever they needed to protect themselves. It was sort of taken away for some reason. We're gonna find out more, I'm sure, as time goes on. But my condolences to those who knew Ashli Babbit. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure you guys are feeling her loss. She sounded like she was a really productive woman. She went down this QAnon pathway like many people have, and it has caused her a lot of pain and suffering. Obviously, it's cost her life, but a lot of pain and suffering for those around her. Yeah. And a lot of other people who have chosen this path are having all kinds of issues. They're really angry inside, and they're not finding that resolution. So let's hope they don't have another January 6th situation.
Yeah, and I feel bad again, but I feel like Ashli Babbit didn't need to die, and she died because why? because Newsmax wanted Mike Lindell to advertise pillows on there, and Tucker Carlson wanted to get you all worked up. It was a whole bunch of grift. They wanted views, they wanted money, so they drove people crazy to get it.
I guarantee that Ashli Babbit was watching the uprising last summer and saying that those people should have been shot. I guarantee she was watching that footage of people just breaking windows of a Patagonia store and saying that they should be shot and they should be this and that. But she thinks, and others thought, that they would be totally fine to bust into the Capitol, being violent, holding weapons. I mean, with a plan like tactical gear. So there's a disconnect and we already know there's a major disconnect with these QAnon people.
Yeah, and by the way, you mentioned this too. Like one of the reasons I don't like this interview is, like, so far as I have seen with the limited information we have about the actual shooting, the cop doesn't appear to have done anything wrong. But that said, I have no interest in a primetime glorification of a cop killing someone. Like our country already does way too much of that, and assumes that they're always right and couldn't have done anything else. And so whether that might be accurate in this particular case or not, I do not want our country like all coming together and be like, yeah, sometimes cops have to kill people. Let's bear that in mind for next time. I'm not interested in that. And so I don't like any part of this. I don't like the threats that will come the cops' way. I'm not interested in the cops' identity. Ashli Babbit shouldn't have been there, and I don't like glorifying police violence.
I agree 100%.
Whatever.
You're absolutely right, and I do think that there are things that they could have done They could have thrown, tear gas. They could have done some stuff. I don't know what was going on in this officer's mind, but I don't think it needs to be glorified. Or if he's getting paid to do it, I get it. We live under capitalism, and we're gonna have to sort of figure it out amongst this system. But
which I'm guessing not. It doesn't see.
No, he got paid.
No,
he got paid.
Yeah, I don't know. I would expect.
Or he's got a book deal. He's got something to push, John.
Sure. Yeah, that's a possibility.
We didn't mention that. So his publisher was like, "Why don't you go on Lester Holt, and then people know who you are, and then they're gonna."
That's true. Well, you only have to wait about 4 hours to find out, actually. In any event, let's move on to more coming out of the 6th. There have been attempts to get documentation that might show any potential connection between Donald Trump, other members of the White House, and those who eventually attacked the Capitol. But most recently, there has been a request for documents that's a bit broader. This is the select committee that's investigating the 6th. They're looking for any communication records between the administration of former President Donald Trump and an array of popular far-right influencers as well. So it's looking for, let's see, current and former administration and campaign officials like Trump, his children, Mike Pence, Roger Stone. It's doing this request at 8 separate government agencies: the National Archives, the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, as well as a whole bunch of intelligence agencies. And people, as broad as Enrico Tarrio, George Papadopoulos, other right-wing grifters who are involved in Stop the Steal. 9 months of records they're looking into, and this is both communication that might go into the planning of the rally or the march or whatever, as well as it says his like mental stability of Donald Trump in the run-up to this. So they've got people in the QAnon movement, Michael Flynn. That's great. I'll have to fix that in a minute. God only knows why that happened. My mental state is shaky. No, but so they're basically looking to see all of these different people in the Stop the Steal movement, in QAnon and all that. Was there coordination? So I want to toss it to you, Viviana, both for your reaction and to give me time to resolve that.
Yeah, fix your Google screen. It's so frustrating to me, John, because we have had so much blatant evidence that Trump and his cronies rabble-roused this crowd, not just on January 6th, but leading up to it. And nothing happens. Nothing is done. Whether he has mental instability or not, he does. Nothing comes out of it. I don't understand it. It's a little bit frustrating. I've said before that there are people on the blue side, there are Democrats who secretly really supported what Trump was doing because they were going to benefit in some way from it. And so I'm not sure that anything is going to come out of this request for communication records. We've already seen so much, and it just goes away like nothing. It's frustrating. I don't know. I feel like we're going to put more time and invest into this, and it's just bupkis.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And again, like, do I think that there's a very strong link between Trump's circle, and the circle is obviously very broad. Mike Pence and Roger Stone are both in it, although they're clearly different in some fairly significant ways. Yes. Do I think it's an email from Trump to George Papadopoulos saying attack the Capitol? No, I don't think he did that, and he didn't have to do that. They got those people to go crazy without ever having to specifically ask them to do a specific act of violence. That's how
Trump is a frat boy.
Political violence works.
He's a frat boy. He knows Trump is a frat boy. He knows whether he was in college or not, because he probably was never there. I don't know if he even went, but he's a frat boy of mentality. They know how to bully. They know how to get people on their side. They know how to rabble rouse. And he did just that through his Twitter. I mean, I'm ecstatic that he's not on Twitter anymore, just because it's just a lot more peaceful. But even if there was communication saying attack the Capitol, I would think that they probably still wouldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, Biden doesn't seem particularly interested in this. But that said, despite the fact that the investigations that are going on seem so like lackadaisical, like they're so relaxed. We're gonna give you the reaction from
the Capitol. Why aren't we taking this seriously?
Why are you taking that so seriously, Viviana? They only attacked the Capitol, and they're even more in favor of political violence now than they were then. What's the issue? I don't understand it. Anyway, here's what Trump had to say. He put out a statement implying that he will not be abiding by the request for records, saying, unfortunately, this partisan exercise is being performed at the expense of long-standing legal principles of privilege, guaranteeing that he did not write any of this.
He did not write
Executive privilege will be defended, not just on behalf of my administration and the patriots who worked beside me, but on wait, so did they work beside you, all these people that attacked the Capitol? But blah, blah, blah. These Democrats only have one tired trick, political theater, and their latest request only reinforces that pathetic reality. And
I love your impression, John. I love
he doesn't seem like he's gonna abide by it. And honestly, if he doesn't, what are they gonna do? They're gonna do
absolutely
nothing,
nothing.
I think. So yeah.
Not only did he not write that, he also hasn't read it. So that's
true.
I don't know who wrote it.
I hope he's watching.
He's not.
Anyway, now, Viviana, while there are no consequences for him, that does not mean that there were no consequences for anyone involved in all of this. So this is where we're gonna turn to now. Some of those involved formally or informally with the Trump legal effort to overturn the election in the run up to the inauguration are facing some consequences and might well face some more. A US judge has just ruled that Lin Wood and Sidney Powell, the pro-Trump attorneys who sued Michigan officials over false claims they broke state election law and manipulated the vote, will have to pay the defendants legal fees and face sanctions over unethical behavior. And the judge was not having any of their BS. This is Linda V. Parker said, Powell and Wood had engaged in a historic and profound abuse of the judicial process. Their claims made against Gretchen Whitmer, the city of Detroit, and state election officials were not just flimsy and unfounded, alleging a massive and implausible conspiracy to steal the election, but actively harmful. She says this case was never about fraud. It was about undermining the people's faith in our democracy and debasing the judicial process to do so. And so as a result of this order, it grants the defendant's motion for unspecified sanctions, instructs the attorneys to pay any fees incurred by their litigation, and instructs the lawyers to complete at least 12 hours of legal education within the next 6 months on election law and pleading standards. The order also refers them for potentially further disciplinary action, including disbarment, which we know already happened to Rudy Giuliani. As an example of how nonsensical their case was, Parker provided numerous instances of what she termed legal abuse. In one example, the lawyers claimed to have evidence that votes were changed by election workers. Asked for evidence, they presented an affidavit from a woman who said only that, quote, I believe some of these workers were changing votes. Asked if that woman had actually seen it, quote, the court was met with silence. Well, come on, I could do that. Like, hire me as your lawyer. Why are you getting people that technically went to law school to do this nonsense?
It reminds me of that Ferris Bueller line where it was like, my cousin's dating this girl who knows a girl who has her brother was at Baskin Robbins and saw him faint last night. It's like so much hearsay. I think they all should be disbarred, I'll be honest. Because when they did this, Trump was telling them, I'll protect you, I'll pay for the fees, I'll do this and that. Of course, he's not gonna do any of that. They were stupid to think it. And they put their own law, license on the line to go up there and say such lies, blatant lies. They should be disbarred. That's your business, to uphold the law, not to go into court and lie to a judge. If you or I did that, we'd be done. We'd be done. I mean, we'd be in contempt of court, we'd be in jail. These guys, same thing.
Yeah. Well, look, I would like to know how much those legal fees are, because that could be a lot of money. And we'll see, maybe they can crowdfund it or whatever, but we saw how that's working out for Rudy Giuliani. He raised like $5,000 or something. They could be in some significant trouble. Now, the reason I wanted to make sure that we talked about this story though was so in the wake of the whole period running up to the 6th and then the actual attack, we've had months and months and months have gone by, and it has felt very often as if America was shown how far the right is willing to go, and then America showed the right, we will do basically nothing to stop you from doing this again. And so my fear has been that they will inevitably do this again. Yeah. And so what I would have liked to have seen was something stronger against Trump, against all the people that organized this, who bust people in there to attack the Capitol, all of that. We're not getting that stuff. But if at least some of the legal challenges to the elections lead to people being fined for millions and losing their ability to practice law, maybe that will make those sorts of challenges a little bit less common in the wake of future elections. And so far, if that's all the consequences we have, at least we have that, I guess.
It's sad though that these low-level people are gonna be the ones paying the price when they were doing it at the behest of others.
That's true, yeah. Well, we keep trying to point out to these people that you can't trust Trump and you shouldn't do his dirty work because he's just gonna cast you aside. I guess why do I think that this would influence people? None of the other stuff has. No. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, what's sad is this is the whole point, is to create doubt, and it's created doubt on both sides. There really has. I hate to say both sides now because it has a negative feeling to it. But we know there's been evidence that the CIA and the FBI has uncovered that the Russians specifically have come. They want to create this doubt amongst the population here in the United States to not have faith in their own election, their own political system, and this is just continuing to play that out. And I don't think that's gonna stop. I mean, it's been happening, I think, as long as almost 10 years now that they've been and it's really gotten rooted with Facebook and all of that. And we keep going back and forth with the controls that Facebook's gonna be placing. But it's scary. It actually is scary, because once you start having doubt in your elections and those kinds of things, it gets to be a little bit anarchy in a country. You need to have some faith.
You do. And we're losing, and sure, I'm sure that those efforts do continue. I don't know, maybe this is like a silver lining of all the nonsense on the right. Like, there ain't no way that Tucker Carlson's doing more damage to democracy, or that Russia is doing more damage than Tucker Carlson is doing. Like every single day, the Fox News and Newsmax is causing people to turn against democracy.
I disagree a little bit, actually. I mean, Tucker's doing a lot of damage, but he's really talking to one side. There's not a lot of Democrats tuning into to look at what he's saying. But the misinformation on social media is really heavy, and it's still going on. I mean, about COVID, about the vaccine, and this is the kind of stuff that's having an effect on people who wouldn't necessarily watch Tucker Carlson. Yeah. So that, to me, he's dangerous, but I think that the misinformation is even more dangerous.
Okay. By the way, just want to throw out there, this news sort of broke right before the show, but in addition to all of this other stuff about the 6th, there are 7 officers from the US Capitol Police that are suing Donald Trump, Roger Stone, and members of far right like extremist groups for saying that they conspired to accomplish the violence that was done against the Capitol Police on the 6th. We'll be finding out more details about those cases, and I'm sure covering them in the future. But understand that that's also another thread that will be going.
Is that a civil suit?
Oh, I will have to get back.
It reminds me of OJ was acquitted or found not guilty. I forget which one it was, but there was a civil suit that he lost. Sure. And so it's interesting to see how that's going to play out, because they may be awarded damages from a civil suit, but yet no consequences for criminality on his part. So
that's possible. We'll
keep
see.
us posted,
something to
John.
look forward to. Yeah. We will. Okay, with that, we are gonna take a break. When we come back, though, we're gonna be checking in on the pandemic, how things are going in Florida. I think you could probably guess, but we'll be back in a few. The Dungeon Dadster says, OMG, John has a tell when he disagrees with someone. Okay. Well, that's not a tell. I was revealing that I disagree. That's a tell reveals something you don't want to reveal. No, we disagree sometimes. Okay. We'll see about that anyway. Okay, so let's see what's going on in the audience.
Clear.
Okay.
You're a real straightforward guy, John.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, Stephanie Etchard upgraded their membership to tier 2. Thank you for that. Victoria Corson to tier 3, getting access to the live monthly Q&A, which we did this Monday. Let's see, over in the YouTube chat, Henry Nguyen says, having bad day, but having the damage report daily is what keeps me going. Thank you for being here. Pitchfork says, someone get John some Too Strong coffee. Well, I'm awake, is that what you're concerned? I'm drinking coffee right now.
I think they're saying that you're amped up.
Oh, maybe. We will see as the next couple topics are pretty rough. Jason R says, I'd have more respect for this office if during the interviews he says forcefully that more of these traitors should have been put down. Stop coddling. Yeah, I don't know that the cop is gonna say that or Lester Holt is gonna imply that. I wouldn't hold your breath for that necessarily. Yeah, I don't think. You asked this question earlier. I don't think this cop is going to be able to convince the right of literally anything. If those other cops, many of whom I'm sure are conservative, who were talking about the racial slurs and being beaten and everything, the right didn't reckon with that for 2 seconds. So this guy definitely isn't going to.
You know who I want to hear an interview with? That cop that was shaking everybody's hands and taking photos. I want to hear from that guy. That's what I want. Lester Holt, get that guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's see. Oh, we just got a big super chat from Musketeer Canine PTS Dogs for Vets, who says, happy dog day. Please do a bit on the PAWS Act being signed. I'm a veteran with PTS and a service dog trainer providing dogs for PTSD. Any veteran watching this channel and suffering should know that starting next year, they can get qualified for $25,000 towards a service dog. I didn't know about that. That sounds like.
You didn't know that? Yeah, they did. Biden just passed that, the PAWS Act. He's gonna make it so that you can get a dog. And those dogs are not cheap. It just happened yesterday. Yeah, I think it was a couple days ago.
Okay, maybe that'll be some good news for Friday. It might be a little bit of trouble getting it on the rundown because Sophie blocks all the dog-related news, but I'll do what I can. Get it on there.
She's okay with service animals, just like the supermarket. Service animals are okay.
She likes to see dogs forced to serve us. But anyway,
you must work.
Good dogs. Okay, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you letting me know about that. Pizza for breakfast says. Nope, that's a little bit too rough, but thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. Some of the commentary about Ashli Babbit is aggressive. So, but thank you, I appreciate it. Mr. K says a suicide bomber has killed civilians and US Marines at the Abbey Gate at Kabul Airport. This is why the deadline shouldn't be extended. Yes, thank you. We did start the show talking about it, but I appreciate you making sure that we know.
So sad.
Jason R says 4 Americans die in Benghazi and we got 9 investigations. The GQP will investigate Kabul for decades to inflict political damage. Yes, that is actually almost certainly gonna happen. I mean, look, they're not in charge right now. When they get in charge next year, maybe they could pick it up and investigate. If they were in charge right now, definitely. That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Avenger Dragon resubscribed for 12 months. Thank you. I might have actually read that one, but hey, double acknowledgement. Let's see. Masonic cheered some bits. Thank you so much for that. Much appreciated. Shelly Bean says, I drink cinnamon coffee sometimes, and that's what I'm gonna be thinking about during this next break. I gotta try that. We'll be right back.
Oh.
Okay, we've got a little bit of time left in this first hour. I think we can get through these 2 stories during that time. So let's launch into this next one. Ron DeSantis, he's made some missteps. I don't mean when I say that for Florida necessarily, because I know that he doesn't care about that whatsoever. But it's possible that some of the moves he's made on the pandemic are gonna hurt the one thing that he does care about, and that is his political aspirations. So let's jump into the damage that he's doing to both. and how. So first of all, how did he do this? Well, earlier this year, Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law that banned local governments, including school districts, from issuing rules about masking, despite a recommendation from the CDC that every school in the nation require masking to prevent students and staff from contracting and spreading the deadly virus. After several school districts said that they would keep their masking rules in place, DeSantis threatened to withhold the pay of district officials in punishment for their defiance, even though they were acting in the interest of public health. Now, since then, the Biden administration has said that it will aid those districts by paying for any penalties DeSantis imposes on them. So that is a good move. But what you have basically is Ron DeSantis turning all of his attention to these antibody like treatment plays that he's setting up, which seems perfectly fine. But when you are a part of this right-wing movement that has decided that, appealing to your base by stopping localities from doing something about the pandemic, that's more important than saving people's lives, I'm gonna have a problem with it, especially when your state ends up doing so poorly. Now, how does this impact what he really cares about, himself? Well, 59% of those in Florida surveyed said they want their current governor to sit out the next presidential contest, including 61% of independents. Obviously, Democrats have no interest in him becoming president. And overall, it appears to actually be hurting his approval numbers. 47% of respondents said they approve of the governor's job performance, while 45% disapprove. It's still way too good, but his pre-pandemic high was 59% in March of 2019. Now, his lowest was 41%. That was in July of last year when Florida was doing pretty rough when it came to the pandemic. Right now, he's still a few points above that, but bear in mind that it is worse in Florida right now than it was at that peak back last year. More people in Florida are now catching the coronavirus, being hospitalized of it, and dying of it than at any previous point in the pandemic. And I want to show you some charts. Take a look at the cases. It is way above what it was in the past waves. Hospitalizations have far eclipsed any past wave as well. And even the deaths are now higher than they were at the worst points. And I want you to briefly really think about how much needs to go wrong for you to be able to exceed the worst suffering of last year. We have so many vaccinated people that we didn't have, including older people, even in places like Florida. There's a good number of people that are vaccinated, despite the lack of advocacy from the right wing there. A lot of people are vaccinated. We understand the virus far better than we did. We have access to masks. We know that we're supposed to socially distance. But despite that, Viviana, it's worse than it's ever been. That is madness to me that it could have gotten this bad.
I mean, it's a testament to what vaccines do and how we can prevent it. But keep in mind, they've also been anti-mask for a good year and a half now. And that is a wonderful method to prevent infections. One thing, going back to his approval numbers, gives me a little bit of faith, because it shows me that regardless of your political affiliation, I think at the end of the day, the majority of people want leaders whose ego doesn't dictate legislation. And that's what's happening with DeSantis. He's saying, wow, he's being stubborn about it. And I think that there are reasonable people out there who are saying, actually, let's take a beat. Let's not just be out there like a bully. And so they're getting turned off by this. Not to mention, obviously, the numbers of illness and death. And we have this, long-term COVID effects as well that people are still feeling. Trump went out there and said, it's no big deal, it's no big deal. But if you had COVID last year and you're still having trouble breathing now, you're starting to think it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he might say that it's not a big deal, but how much do we see him? How much do we see his? I want to see him walk briskly.
He couldn't do that before, John.
Yeah, that's not a fair. I apologize. That was an anti-science thing to ask for. Honestly, it wouldn't prove anything. But anyway, so look, with Ron DeSantis, it's bad there. It is almost certainly going to get worse. The case numbers aren't as bad as they were a few days ago, but they're still drastically up. There's a lot of people in the hospital. And so what lesson has Ron DeSantis learned? Well, this is a headline from yesterday. Ron DeSantis wants Biden to follow Florida's lead on COVID. Okay, I really do not want us to follow anything having to do with their lead on COVID, because it's devastating. I don't want California to end up like that. And I just want to remind people of this Politico headline from last year. or from the very beginning of this year, how Ron DeSantis won the pandemic on Politico. And there's this whole section, I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but about like, well, I don't know about these Democrats. They were talking about DeSantis and Death Santis, but now it's looking like he kind of won. Is he? Did he?
It's the same people that were arguing that Sweden figured it out as well. They want to say, well, you just need to lose 500,000 people, 1 million people, and then the pandemic's done. And the argument that, well, because this is a lot going on right now. You're vaccinated, you could still get it. You're vaccinated, you could still spread it. But what people are not looking at is the less people that get vaccinated gives the virus more of a chance to mutate and become other variants like the Delta. Who knows what's going to happen next? It'll become more aggressive and could even hurt us further. So it's this misinformation, this ego bravado from DeSantis is scary for the state of Florida. And my only hope is somehow this turns Florida blue. That's my only hope.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, like his numbers are going down once again. The connection between what politicians do, the effects of their actions, and what people think about them is so tenuous. It is incredibly frustrating, but we saw it last year in Florida. Things are worse now than they were then. So theoretically, like this should hang around his neck for the rest of his career. We'll see. That would be the barest minimum justice considering so much needless loss of life. But we'll see. We'll see. It seems to be affecting him now. And I don't know, maybe if he starts to think that this might hurt him in 2024 running for the presidency, if he somehow comes to that conclusion, that might be the only thing that gets him to actually take this seriously. And that's what's needed to save so many lives in Florida.
100%.
Okay, we are running low on time in this first hour, so we are gonna jump into a very different topic. As has become a real pattern now, graphic body camera footage that was held in secret for a couple of years is showing that a cop devastatingly beat someone. A black motorist attacked back in May 2019 that resulted in Aaron Larry Bowman having a broken jaw, 3 broken ribs, a broken wrist, a gash on his head that required 6 staples to close. Now, how bad was it? Like, you should know from that, the footage makes it very real. So we're gonna show you the footage, but understand there's a reason why they didn't want people to see this for so long. It is obviously very graphic, so consider yourself warned. But here is a bit of that footage from back in May 2019.
Hold on, hang tight. I haven't done nothing. Give me your hand. Give me your fucking hand. Give me your fucking hand. Give me your hand. Give me. I'm not resisting. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. I ain't messing with you. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. Okay. I'm bleeding. They hit me in the hand with a flashlight. I haven't done nothing, man. I'm on dialysis, man. You hurt me.
That is absolutely devastating to watch. The cop is Jacob Brown, jumped out of his car, ran over to Aaron Larry Bowman, who had already been restrained, and instantaneously began beating him with an 8-inch aluminum flashlight reinforced with a pointed end to shatter car glass. It says he hit him 18 times in 24 seconds, despite the fact multiple cops had already restrained him. This is a cop who, and we'll talk about his past before that, but this is a guy who was desperate for an opportunity to beat someone that was restrained. I think that's very clear from this footage. Viviana, what'd you think? That's the cop right there that you're seeing right now.
It's horrific. I mean, it's upsetting to watch. I mean, the guy was just with a mag light. I mean, those things are heavy. Broke his arm, broke his wrist, gashed his head open. What's concerning to me is his justification for it, and even more concerning is how this was hidden for so long. This is what the problem is when we're talking about our current policing system and the qualified, immunity. We cannot be protecting them to this point where they're endangering the public. I don't care what this man did. There's a way to take people into custody without beating the holy life out of them. I mean, we've seen with these, young white gun massacre people that go to Burger King afterwards. We got to figure out another method here, people. This guy is a monster, this cop, Brown. Obviously, he knew he's a monster. He hid his behavior. I mean, this is criminal. Will we see these criminal charges? I hope so.
Well, look, the defense attorney for Bowman, the victim here, was told initially there was no body camera video. Isn't it great that you just, whoops, I goofed. How do you not go to, you're going to jail for that. Like, honestly, the people who destroy the footage, who hide the footage, like, they're gonna keep doing that until there are consequences for it, and there's seemingly no consequences for it. So everything that you saw there is devastating. We have some more context about that particular area, as well as his past. So you might recall a video of Ronald Green. We showed this footage a couple of months ago. It was another black motorist who was dragged from his car and beaten. The family was lied to, said that he got the injuries from a car crash, which did not happen. They were 3 weeks apart in the same area. So to give you an idea of the cops in this area, Brown in particular, let's see, not only failed to report his use of force, but mislabeled his footage as a citizen encounter. He had 23 use of force incidents dating to 2015. So in a 4-year period, 23 use of force incidents, 19 of them targeting black people, just coincidentally. So here's a hypothetical for you, America. What if you have a country filled up with hardcore racists and you tell them, hey, if you'd like, we have a job for you that you can take and we will pay you, and a couple dozen times in a few years, you can beat the hell out of people that you hate. Who do you think that's gonna attract? Well, we know the pattern. We know the individuals that go for this sort of job, and they're protected by other cops. They're protected by the cops union. The whole thing is dragged out by years to even find out what happened in the footage. And so I'm sure this guy is going to suffer some legal consequences. There's so much here, but is that gonna do anything to make the next footage less likely? Anyway, final thoughts, Viviana. I know we don't have much time.
Just really, I want to know how this all came to light. Finally, I need to find some more information about this. The culture of violence for the police, and in particular this area, is really scary.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, well, if you're watching on our linear platform, I apologize. We are basically out of time. But thank you for being here. If you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube, we do have some more news to talk about. It's gonna be a little bit lighter in some ways, the only ways it ever really is on TDR, but it's coming up. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back, everyone. Hey, YouTube and Twitch. Apologies, had to get some coffee, but we're still here and we've got some more news for you. Viviana is still here. Hey, Viviana, how's it going?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. I know that there's something that you wanted to talk about before we jump back into the news.
Well, I just wanted to thank you, John, for having me on the show and celebrating Women's Equality Day. So it's important to have female voices and voices of all genders represented. So just happy to be representing for my fellow women. And just to remind people out there that there is still a big discrepancy in how women are paid and how we are treated and what services we can access, how much our tampons cost and are taxed, et cetera, et cetera. I like to remind people that even as recent as 7-8 years ago, I was getting paid $100,000 less than my male co-host. And when I asked my female producer, she told me, well, he has a family. As if maybe I could have a family if I was getting paid more. I don't know.
You shiftless orphan. Yeah. What a weird thing.
And that was a woman. That was a pussy hat wearing woman that told me that. So we have a long ways to go. So it's important to bring it out. And I just wanted to thank you for having me on the show.
Wow. Okay. We have people of all sorts of families on the show, and we think that's okay. I thought everyone did. That's a really weird thing to say. But anyway, always glad to have you here. By the way, coming up later on today, not only am I going to be joining Dr. Rashad Ritchie on Indisputable, which is going to be starting in about 25 minutes. Also, we've got The Conversation. I'm getting yelled at in the notes here. That's going to be live today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. David Schuster is going to be investigating why the Taliban is still on Twitter. That's going to be a fun, interesting little discussion. And then today after Indisputable on Twitch, you can catch Reactions with Ravana at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time at twitch.tv/TYT. Let me read just a couple of quick comments before we jump back into things. Let's see. Kedge Dragon said in reference to the last story we talked about, cops hit me in the back with a flashlight in 1967, still hurts, as does the shoulder that was injured when tossed into cruiser while cuffed in 1989. Jesus, yeah, these injuries can be permanent, the physical ones as well as, like, I imagine the PTSD of being brutalized by a whole bunch of cops for like a traffic violation.
What's the statute of limitations on police brutality?
I don't know.
1 minute.
Instant, I think, yeah.
It's over.
Asmos Prophet says, and Hillsborough County is the worst. I went to high school there. This is madness. Can we Baker Act Florida? I think talking there about the Ron DeSantis and all the insanity going on with COVID. Okay, we've got two stories to get to. I also noticed a couple of headlines that we might be able to mention at some point that have me worried a little bit, but let's have a little bit of what passes for fun here on the Damage Report. Tucker Carlson is confused about a great many things. Some of it, though, I feel like he could just Google or like work out for himself, talk to someone that he trusts, but he likes to work out in public how little he understands about some core stuff about being a human, in this case about sexuality. Here he is talking about a governor.
Kate Brown was first elected governor of Oregon way back in 2015. At the time, there was not a whole lot going on in Oregon, so voters didn't ask many questions. The one thing they did learn about Kate Brown over and over again is that she is a self-described bisexual. Why is this relevant? Well, the media didn't explain. They told us, without exactly explaining what it meant, that this fact was historic and it was highly thrilling. Kate Brown's sex life was shattering ceilings. Woohoo! And yet, if you looked a little closer, you noticed something a little weird. Actually, Kate Brown was married to a man. Yes, he had a different last name, but he was still, as they say on TikTok, binary. He was a dude. That's fine, of course, but it was also a little confusing. How does having a groom at her wedding make Kate Brown an official member of the LGBTQ exclamation point community? No one bothered to ask. That kind of curiosity was forbidden. It was like wondering why we don't call Barack Obama half white, which he is. It's not allowed. Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
I understand that he's a very rich person who probably doesn't have many friends. He has a very sheltered experience. He was born an heir. I feel like someone could have explained this to you. Viviana, Of all, like, society's complicated. I get it. There's a lot of different experiences. I don't think bisexual is the most complicated thing to understand.
No, I find it hilarious that he thinks that the term binary came from TikTok. Like that was the first time we talked about binary. Where do we begin? I think the most salient thing is if you do not understand your own sexual identity and your own sexual ideology, you're not gonna understand anybody else's. I don't think that he has ever really explored who he really is and understand who he is on a core level as a human being. So he's not gonna understand LGBTQ and I, it's not exclamation. And so that's sad.
No, Viviana. You said I, but that doesn't mock it like saying exclamation does.
Yeah.
So sure, you might be accurate, but you're not condescending enough. Come on, this is media.
Yeah, it's really sad because he has quite a platform and there's so much hate towards the LGBTQ community. Unless you know, like your brother, well, my brother's different, it's really, really disgusting. But it makes me sad for him, honestly, because he has no idea who he is. In reality, he's never explored who he is in reality. So it's just like, I think thou doth protest too much, Tucker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
figure out who you are, and then you'll understand what that means. And it's not her sexual behavior that people were commenting on. It's the fact that a woman who rejects or a person rather, who rejects or who accepts or who identifies differently than the norm is holding office. It wasn't anything about sex. So he's way off as usual. I'm
like trying to figure out what he thinks bisexual means.
I've never seen you speechless, John.
What does he think a lesbian is then? Like I want to just sit him down and I want to give him flashcards of different like identifications and I want to see him define them. But briefly, let's acknowledge we get to do another edition of my favorite thing with Tucker Carlson. Stop saying you want to ask questions and just ask the question. And in particular, right now, I really want you to ask the question because I think the question is, what's a bisexual? Like, and it's really sad that you'd have to ask these questions. You have a smartphone, right? Google's on it. You could ask Jeeves.
He might be afraid.
Probably still archived.
He might be afraid of if he Googles bisexual, then what happens next?
I don't know. May not want it to be in his Google history, so we'll do it for him. When you look up bisexual, it says noting or relating to a person who is sexually or romantically attracted to people of 2 or more genders. That's, by the way, if you jump ahead of the next part, that's apparently at a middle school level. Like the middle schoolers understand that. But Tucker, his whole thing is, he did this thing about like Adam Kinzinger crying in Waffle House. And there was another segment, I don't even know what he was talking about. He does these very long drawn out segments that are like supposed to be funny. No, see, Zachary says in the chat, can you guys not recognize satire? No, he can't recognize satire. And it has nothing to do with whether or not what we just saw was supposed to be satire in some way. It wasn't funny, it wasn't illuminating. It had nothing to do with anything that has to do with satire. All it was dryly condescending. And she's not making a big deal about any of this. So who's the target for any of this? None of it makes any sense except the core mission, which is to give his audience people to hate. He wants they need someone new to feel superior to literally every day. They may not have any idea who she is. They may not know anything about Oregon, but they can briefly feel like, haha, they think she's a bisexual, but she doesn't comply with what we think they should be. Haha. It's not funny. It's not deep. It's not insightful. It's nothing. It's a waste of time. It's a 2-minute hate that takes 60 minutes to get through.
It is. It's exactly that, stoking the fuel of just hate. That's exactly it, John. I want to know what he thinks exclamation is, though. Is that like yes? Is like what is the exclamation?
I like that one though. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna move on in just 1 minute to our last story, but briefly, I wanna let you know what I've seen coming up on my feed as we've been doing this. So you might know that our leadoff story was the terrible news of the multiple bombings outside of the airport in Kabul. So Lindsey Graham, these are headlines. Lindsey Graham calls for US military to retake Bagram Air Base. Dan Crenshaw warns on Fox that ISIS attacks in US are coming. War clearly not ended. So this is gonna be, now granted they're Republicans, so hopefully they don't have much influence over Biden, except Biden. This is what the reaction is going to be. Yeah, no, I was totally in favor of pulling out, but now it's gotten serious. We can't possibly pull out now. Stay there for just another 2 decades. How about that, Viviana?
There's a sexual innuendo in there somewhere, John, but yes.
Not intentional.
I won't go there, but I like how it's convenient that they forget who decided to pull out. Now it's a problem.
You said you wouldn't go there. You said it. You promised. Anyway.
That's what I mean. Okay, remove troops from a base. They forget who started the first talks with the Taliban. They forget who decided they'd be out by a specific date. They forget. Now, I believe that we should have never had a war and we should have never been there at all, but we're there now. And I think we need to be responsible on how we leave a country that we destabilized. But the right is really, it's just comical to me how hypocritical they are and how they come out here on social media. We should have done this. But yet, when Trump was in office, they were very supportive. Oh, he's trying to be a diplomat. Oh, yeah. He's trying to. Is there a risk to our country of an attack? Honestly, I don't think there is. Because I think the US government is fully aware of what's going to be happening over there. And there is some sort of agreement between the two of them about this country. And they agree with what's going on in that country and justifies the means.
Yeah, and I don't know, like a right winger just brought a whole bunch of bomb making materials to DC like 3 days ago, and everybody's even forgotten about that. Maybe control your own people before you go invading another country. By the way, Big Bull Dragon on Twitch says, how about we just send Crenshaw to deal with them? Yeah, dude loves to post videos of him as a superhero jumping out of planes and like saving the day. Go, feel free, buddy. Anyway. Okay, with that, let's jump into our last story. Tony Hawk, the skateboarder, he's got a new collaboration coming out, new product, a collaboration with Liquid Death, a canned water company known for its tongue-in-cheek tagline, "Murder Your Thirst." Well, he's decided he wants to get in on something that you're gonna quickly recognize as we do this video, a little bit of a trend with custom products. So we're gonna show you a video of the product. I want you to understand there is blood in this video. So if you are squeamish when it comes to blood, understand that that's there, but let's jump into this.
Hey, what's up? I'm Tony Hawk, and I recently became an ambassador for Liquid Death Mountain Water. Apparently I didn't read the fine print, and now Liquid Death officially owns my soul and my blood too. I don't know, it's very confusing. They're taking my blood and we're gonna use it for skateboard graphics. So they're gonna mix my blood into the paint and do a limited run of skateboards using my real blood in the graphics. But some of the profits will go towards killing plastic pollution and to building skate parks in underserved communities. Yeah, so I guess go to liquiddeath.com to get skateboards with my blood in it. So wait, if you have my blood, that means you have my DNA.
Get the Liquid Death skateboard infused with 100% real Tony Hawk today. Wow, you can own your very own piece of Birdman, but hurry. Supplies are extremely limited, so visit liquiddeath.com/hawkblood right now.
Okay, so first of all, I love his commitment to the bit. Dude looked like he had just been drained of all of his blood in that video. He was like kind of like shaky. So anyway, they're taking his blood, they're mixing it in a paint, and they're making some skateboards, which they've already all sold out. As he acknowledges, 10% of the proceeds are going towards 5 Gyres, I believe it is, an environmental nonprofit designed to reduce plastic pollution, and his organization, the Skate Park Project, which builds skate parks in underserved communities. So that's all fine or weird or whatever. But the reason people were asking, wait, why was there B-roll of Lil Nas X at the beginning? Because when he did this exact same thing, everybody lost their mind. The right wing thought it was the most satanic thing since Tom Hanks eating a baby. And so we're going to remind you of this collaboration to produce the Satan shoes. They made 666 pairs, and people freaked out, including Governor Kristi Noem, who said something about eternal souls and fighting for the soul of the nation. It's a shoe, I'll remind you. But anyway, so far, Viviana, the reaction has not been as crazy when Tony Hawk does it. for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, people love Tony Hawk, that's why. And to your point about him playing the role and seeming drained, I've met Tony Hawk on several occasions, and that's how he always is. You wouldn't expect it from an adrenaline junkie, but he is quite boring. So I don't even think that this is his idea.
He's not boring, he's got blood skateboards, come on.
It wasn't his idea, I promise you that. That water is pretty cool, I've drank it before and it looks like I'm drinking a 40 and I don't drink beer, so I finally fit in at the bar.
What's up?
But Lil Nas X was already hated. He was already hated because of who he is as a human being. And they were looking for anything. It had Satan in the name. This also said something about losing his soul. So it's very, very similar. Mm-hmm. The aftermath is not going to be as big because he's not black and he's not non-binary. I don't know what Lil Nas X defines himself as. I think he just came out as gay, but he definitely doesn't conform to whatever norm the extreme right usually does. So I think that's Fox why there was so much hate towards him.
Like they might do a segment on the 5 about Tony Hawk because you got to fill time, I guess. But it doesn't get them worked up like Lil Nas X. They don't get to play the video and then be all aggrieved by it. Obviously, it's a racial thing. It's a sexual thing. Tony Hawk, as you pointed out, is old and I guess a little bit boring. I don't know. His commentary during the Olympics I thought was fine. So that is not going to get their base all worked up. But the dichotomy of the responses was noticed by one individual named Lil Nas X, who tweeted, now that Tony Hawk has released skateboards with his blood painted on them, and there's no public outrage, are y'all ready to admit y'all were never actually upset over the blood in the shoes, and maybe you were mad for some other reason? I will answer for them, no. No one will admit that they have learned anything. In their defense, though, they probably haven't. But anyway, a statement was put out by Liquid Death about the similarity between these two things. They said, we fully support Lil Nas X and thought his fictional Montero music video and limited shoe release was a brilliant and hilarious counterpunch to the homophobic hatred damning him to hell that he and so many others in the LGBTQ+ community have to deal with. They say
and
the backlash
that's why they stole his idea. Sorry.
Yeah, seemingly. I guess at least they seem to be on the side. I don't know. He's obviously mad about the difference in their reactions. I don't know how mad he is about just doing it. But anyway, yeah, I think this is certainly an opportunity where in the theory, we could learn something as a society, but almost certainly won't.
Out of curiosity, was Tony Hawk commenting on skateboarding?
For the Olympics?
Yeah.
No, rhythmic gymnastics. Yes, skateboarding, I'm kidding. Yes.
But that's the only thing he talks like entertaining about. Like the guy is.
Why does he have to be entertaining about anything else? He's a skateboarder. He's never
if you're doing an interview, because you mentioned that he was kind of subdued, and I'm just saying that's his personality. He's just kind of a mellow guy. I just want to know what Lil Nas X thinks of this. I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they should have at least given him one of the skateboards.
That's what I think for sure. Exchange the shoes, skateboard, and then Tony Hawk should wear the shoes while he's skateboarding. Makes sense.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Anyway, that is going to be all the time that we have. Viviana, as always, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much. You guys make sure to check out a segment I have coming up on Contextualize This with Professor Duncan Earl. He's talking about the indigenous people being stewards of our environment and how that sort of language and that sort of behavior has prevented forest fires in the past. Now we have these wildfires because we have put a lot of invasive species. So there's a lot of stuff to learn about how we can treat forest fires. Anyway, check it out.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Definitely everyone check that out. Have a good one. Stay safe out there, Viviana. There's a lot to go over.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much, John.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Sophie, I know you're gonna try to compensate for all of your dog hate by reminding me. I was not gonna forget. So thank you everybody for being here. And Sophie, honestly, thank you for reminding me. I've got a little, no, not a surprise, but maybe a treat. Everybody, if you remember the pandemic days, this is little Abby. She's come to work with me. She hasn't been very productive so far, but she's a very cute dog. And also, This is Hilo. Hilo's my dog. We don't have Sprocket, but Hilo's very happy to be at work. He likes going on car rides, and he expects to be paid for his services. Okay, well, look, I hope you appreciate the dogs. I appreciate them being here. We do have a lot that's gonna be coming up today. Not only Indisputable, where I'll be joining Dr. Rashad Ritchie, reactions as well, the conversation with David Schuster. There's so much going on. So everybody buckle up. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. Oh, wait, no, hold up. You gotta go vote for the garbage person of the week. Go to the community tab over on the Damage Report YouTube channel. And I'll see you soon.
Yeah, you know what time it is. It is Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We got a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day with me, none other than my big homie, John Iadarola, host of the Damage Report and the Young Turks and docuseries True North. He's the guy behind that too. My big homie will come up in just a moment. And in the bullpen segment, that's my debate segment. You stick and stay for that. We have Kenny Zhu, who is the author of Inconvenient Minority and president of Color Us United. Going to be interesting. This guy wants to debate with me about critical race theory, affirmative action, and the Stop Asian Hate movement, okay? All right, top news story. A 50-year-old dad attacks a child at a school because he's an anti-masker. The dad is an anti-mask guy and attacks another kid, a young girl. Let's just go to the video.
I have been doing this for 4 days. No,
that's grits.
He had been at this school for days protesting the mask mandate, got his daughter, 15-year-old Isabel, involved in his ridiculous protest. So let me get this right. This guy decides to take his child out of school because he doesn't want her to follow the rules of everyone else, saying that somehow these mask mandates, that it creates a barrier to her education. No, sir, you, Dan Bowman, you're creating the barrier to your daughter's education. Let's put up a picture of this clown. Okay, we'll have a picture later of him. All right, Dan Bowman, who's the father that you saw fighting a girl, a student inside of that or on that school campus. This is quite interesting. This is the 5th time since the Broward schools resumed in-person learning. Dan Bowman, 50 years of age, walked his daughter, Isabel, to school. Isabel is a 10th grader. In her first year at Fort Lauderdale High, she has refused to wear a mask. I wonder where she got that idea from. And has turned away and was turned away each day by the administration. Hey, it's a rule, all right? School boards, school systems, principals, they enforce rules. They enforce dressing codes, they enforce language, behavior, they enforce rules. Every single one of us had to go through that, all right? Dan Bowman, the dad said, and I quote, you gotta get this. First of all, it's illegal for them to mandate it. It's against the law. It's against the Parents' Bill of Rights. Our belief is it doesn't stop the spread of the virus. It doesn't control it. It does more harm than good. Okay, so this is all based on this personal belief, right? The science is clear. COVID-19 is decreased by 40 to 60% and up to 90% if worn properly. The science is settled on that matter. Let's go to what the students were saying about this.
Right there.
Well, they said, please don't lie. We're doing our job. We're doing what
Right there.
Well, they said, please don't lie. We're doing our job. We're doing what the school.
Yeah, the students were screaming, wear a mask. That's what you heard, the students yelling and chanting to all of these anti-mask parents who were there. You saw in the video, Bowman pushed the student in the shoulder and then grabbed her hand and twisted her arm in an aggressive manner. That's according to witness reports. He was immediately taken into custody. This guy has now been charged with aggravated child abuse. 4 supporters of Isabel, that's his daughter, showed up carrying signs in front of the school to protest the district's mask mandate. So I count 6 people total now. All right. A group of students on the school's campus chanted, wear a mask, directed toward the group as well as Isabel. John, I see you shaking your head, brother. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, obviously, over the last year, we've seen a lot of these anti-mask, anti-vax, anti-everything parents. And so you wonder, well, how can they stand out at this point? He found a way. I mean, he may debate whether it's fair to have a rule that you have to wear a mask, but there's definitely a rule against grown men punching schoolgirls. Like, I feel like that's a pretty robust rule that's been around for a long time. He's a 50-year-old man punching a kid, and like he was restrained. So you read what he actually did, the grabbing of the arm and everything, but he would have done more. Like, if multiple people hadn't held him back, what did he want to do? Yeah. And so he's getting these. He's going to get the charge for aggravated child abuse. He got the emotional and educational abuse of his own child for free. He should have been happy with that one, and now he's got the second charge.
Here's what I wonder. You make a great point about the fact that if the action to restrain him would not have been swift, he would have actually done more physical harm to this child. But here's the thing. Why was he allowed to be on that property recording people? This was his 5th day doing it. It's not as if the school system or the administrators were unaware of what he was doing. If you want to do a protest, okay, you have a right to do a protest, but there is a restriction on where you can do protest. And I find it quite amazing that the school allowed him to do a protest on the property for days. And once again, I think this goes back to how we're dealing with these folks. We're playing with them. We are allowing them to do things that we would not allow other folks to do. I guarantee you, if this person would have been African American, black, if they would have had the last name Muhammad, if variables about who they are would have been different, they would not have allowed them to remain on school property harassing children for days.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question. So this guy who he cares so much about the dress code and how if in his view there isn't a legitimate medical reason to wear a mask, then they can't require it. Do you think that, like, if you were to look back through his past as a political activism sort of dude, he was protesting the schools that like threw girls out for wearing skirts that were an inch too short, or like threw kids out whose pants were sagging, or like fought for the rights of kids to wear jerseys in schools where they weren't allowed? Like, I have a feeling this is not an actual like outgrowth of a real political value. It's a very like temporally bound ideological thing. And that's gonna happen. There's a lot of broken people, there's a lot of broken men in America. We see them in videos like this every day. What sucks is that he's dragging his kid into it. Like, he's ensuring that this ignorance is gonna be generational.
Man, you make a remarkable point, and I'll say this to that point to add to it. I guarantee you, this is the same guy who would say kids should not wear Black Lives Matter shirts because they're political, right? He's the same guy. And keep this in mind, all of these parents, they have already said yes to mandates, right? If you're in public education, 100% of public education, you have to get vaccinations in order to remain there, right? 92% of private institutions require some level of vaccination to be at that private school. So let's do the math here. He already says yes to vaccines, mandated. He says yes to vaccine passports because you got to prove that your child got the vaccine. You bring the document from the health clinic, from the medical doctor, that's your passport, that's your vaccine passport. So you say yes to a needle and a chemical inside of your child, but you say no to a non-chemical known as a mask in order to protect your child. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. All right, we got more. A video has actually surfaced. A state trooper beat a man with his flashlight so bad, he broke the man's jaw, 3 fractured ribs, broke his wrist, gashed to the head. Let's go to the video.
Hold on, hang tight. I haven't done nothing. Give me your hand. Give me. Give me your I'm resisting. I'm not resisting. Give me your I ain't messing with you. Give me your hand. Give me your hand. Okay. Hold on. Give me your back. Got it? Come on, man. I'm bleeding. and him in the hand with a flashlight.
Damn shame. This was a Louisiana state trooper. You saw a beating with a flashlight. The beating left the victim, Aaron Larry Bowman. It left Mr. Bowman with a broken jaw, 3 fractured ribs, a broken wrist, and a gash to his head that required 6, ladies and gentlemen, 6 damn staples to close. Said a lawyer who's representing him in a civil rights lawsuit filed last year in Louisiana against the state police. Let's put up a picture of Mr. Bowman, the victim here. That's him in the hospital. Okay, he's the victim. Ron Haley, one of Bowman's attorneys, said Officer Jacob Brown beat his client with an 8-inch aluminum flashlight. Brown hit him within seconds of initial contact and hit Bowman at least 18 times in 24 seconds. Haley said. Let's show a picture of Jacob Brown from the sheriff's office. That's the cop. Brown was charged in December with aggravated second-degree battery and malfeasance in office. He has not entered a plea. State prosecutor said that case remains on hold as federal investigators are conducting their own investigation into Brown's actions. Mr. Brown, who was facing criminal charges in 2 unrelated excessive force cases, resigned 1 month earlier. Repeat offender. You understand? Repeat offender. Why? Because it's not about policy, it's about culture. It's not about policy, it is about culture. It doesn't matter what the words say. It doesn't matter what your policy is. If your culture is adversarial to the policy, that culture will eat policy alive every day. And here you have it. The division of the Louisiana State Police, where Brown worked, Troop F, is under investigation for potential abuses committed by troopers, plural, against black motorists. That investigation followed the death of Ronald Green, a black motorist who died after he was beaten and tased following a car chase that began when Green did not stop for officers. John, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, it's devastating to watch the footage. I feel like, I'm glad that you brought up Ronald Green, because I think about like that footage. I think about the footage of the cop doing the pit maneuver and flipping the SUV of the pregnant woman. Like, do you ever feel like watching this footage and seeing like undeniable evidence of how awful your fellow man can be, like take something away from you? Like it's just devastating to actually have to see it and to get a window into who this person is, that they can arrive on the scene, run up, and within seconds think, I'm gonna hit this person as many times as I can. And that's bad about that one person, but he was surrounded by other cops. They don't care. They thought what he was doing was fine. They didn't stop him then. They didn't, he lied about it. He lied about the use of force. They pretended there wasn't body cam footage. He's bad, but the system had, how many people had to work together to shield him from justice for 2 years? Like it is so much bigger than just that awful cop.
That's right, that's right, very well said. And the thing is, what we find time and time again, we find the protection, because if they could have protected him, they would have. The story just got too big, and it was no longer feasible to actually provide protection for this guy. But now you have jurisdictions who have created new laws, the mandate to report law, right? But if you don't enforce that law, the infraction is only as strong as the enforcement. That's it. So you have now these new laws called mandate to report, and obviously this jurisdiction is in bad need of it. But if you do not change the culture, it doesn't matter what the words say. I know we keep talking about reform, but damn, John, it's getting so bad. I think we need to start talking about replacement, because these same cops are not the cops that would get you to where you want to be in American society.
Yeah, I don't know, like whether it's, these rural areas where you have cops, it seems like the department is it's the place that the racists go to get paid while doing their horrible, violent hobby, basically. And then you have LA has like massive gangs in the police. Like, yeah, what? Well, I hope that Kamala Harris comes out in favor of some like new reforms. I'm sure that'll clean it up. Like, how is that supposed to? Like, these are some of the worst people in our country, happen to have a badge. You have to weed out, I don't know what the percentage is, a significant percentage of the most personally violent ones, a larger percentage of those that have been perfectly fine for decades to just watch it happen. Once you get done with that, were you to do it, what would you even be left with at the end of that?
Yeah. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
So a lot of progressive office holders are doing something fun. I like fun. They're doing the last 2 years in 2 minutes. Okay, we're gonna try it here. First, I wanna let you guys know about the years before that. Hey, remember we started the Just Democrats here on the Young Turks. It was officially launched on our air, basically by you guys. And then we featured AOC, we featured Cori Bush, and Ro Khanna became the first ever Just Democrat incumbent, all on the Young Turks. Now, the last 2 years have been a spectacular follow-up to that. So let's put the 2 minutes on the clock and do this. Young Turks got to start back in 2002, and I think we've been an important part of the progressive movement ever since. What we mainly do is amplify the progressive voice and candidates out there, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Right now, we're currently #1 most engaged news politics network online, beating CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC, all of them. We're #1 in total minutes watched. That means not only the number of people watching, but how long they watch. We just crossed 20 million followers and 500 million monthly views. Now, why? That's because actually the country's progressive. It's 2/3 progressive. And you guys have allowed us to be your voice, and we're incredibly thankful for that. So what did we do with that voice? Well, let's look at 2019. We went all over the country talking to you guys and the candidates. So we were in Miami, we were in Detroit, we were in Houston, and we were in Iowa. In fact, we were all over Iowa. You guys were all over Iowa, and all of the candidates saw you guys. We had wonderful people speaking, like the one and only Nina Turner at our rallies. Bernie Sanders stopped by, Andrew Yang, Elizabeth Warren. We interviewed almost everyone on the campaign trail, with the exception of Biden and Buttigieg. And we held them accountable. We even did a progressive economic pledge, and so many wonderful people signed on to that. Bernie Sanders, Warren, Marianne Williamson, AOC, the entire squad, Justice Democrats, and so many others. Now, on top of all that, we started a show called The Conversation, where we featured so many progressive thinkers, writers, and candidates. And one of the candidates we featured in 2019 was Jamal Bowman. Here comes Jamal Bowman. Then we had an amazing 2020. We hired a climate reporter. Damage Report passed 500,000 subscribers. Young Turks passed 5 million subscribers. We're getting the message out to more and more people. Bernie Sanders comes on in the heat of the primary. He comes on after the election to say what we're gonna do for the future. And then Marie Newman wins. Jamal Bowman wins. Cori Bush wins. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any better, here comes Nina Turner. Hello, somebody. And she's running for Congress, and she comes on the Young Turks first. On election week, we had nearly 2 million hours of viewing. With #1 destination for progressives. You made all that happen. This is amazing, and thank you for those 2 years. What, I went past 2 minutes? Of course!
Viewers had asked for an interview with the TYT Lizard. Mr. Lizard. Oh, you changed colors today. Nice. I don't even know how you feel about us. Do you even like us?
Well, you guys made me this awesome house, so I'm kind of in your debt. I was found outside on the street, and you gave me a home. Granted, it was a really crappy home for a while, but then through the power of fundraising, I became a person who has a multi-level Trump-style mansion.
You do. By the way, you never looked better, man. Normally, you're just green or just brown, but today you're in mid-lizard, right?
I'm not very smart. I'm a lizard, so I don't know how the science works. I guess this is just my mood. It's not every day that thresholds like this are broken. I'm just so excited. I can't contain my pigmentation.
And now you're showing it off.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never seen the lizard like this before.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of viewer comments. Let's get to it. Okay, don't forget reactions today after Indisputable. Catch reactions with Ravana, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Tune in on twitch.tv/TYT. All right, and then later in the day, we got a special. All right, the conversation today live at 5:30 Eastern time, 2:30 Pacific time, tyt.com/live. Before the Young Turks, there's a very special episode hosted by David Schuster, investigates why the Taliban, why are they still on Twitter? Okay, why are they still on Twitter? Also, make sure you subscribe and watch all interviews at youtube.com/TYT conversation. All right, okay. TYT member, I'm a damn lib says, once again, your private beliefs do not make public policy. Get over it and put on the mask, or better yet, get the vaccine. Right. Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug says, it's almost like the definition of not resisting is allowing someone to hit or manhandle you without flinching. Yeah. I mean, and the audacity to go and mess with other people's children. Now, I would have been at the school the first day I heard he was doing something like that. Okay, YouTube super chat. This is my poet, Kelly O'Hara. Well, what do you know? Dragon Daddy and Truth Daddy on the same show. Won't tell no lies, don't have no facade. Can't get better than John and Rashad. Bars. You need to be like, you need to be a writer. Listen, if those like old 70 movies come back, where when you're acting, everybody's rhyming, you will be the perfect person. Okay, May Money in the building. Two of my favorite people to walk this very strange earth. It's a good day. Hi, John. That's awesome. Thank you for that.
How's it going?
Zane the Magic Puffer Dragon. Woohoo, Dragon Daddy-O. Hashtag spank me, Dragon Daddy-O. That's not for me, y'all. That's for him.
I think it's for both of us.
It's for you.
We'll see.
All right, Chill Will, thank you for that. Peter Hamby, thank you for that. Peter says, cowards attack kids, anti-mask entitlement, or rule against his from the Haiku Dragon. Okay, got it. Law school stud. I love the anti-maskers cry. Wearing a mask would traumatize the kids. You know what else would traumatize the kids? Attacking kids. Disgusting. Moon Dragon. We need to stop calling cops bad apples and talk about police departments being vinegar. Tiger Katsuni. How am I supposed to feel safe as a black man when I leave my front door? What about my son? Preparation, man. And listen, there's no magic bullet to it, no pun intended. Jonathan Ondrasic. I am not hitting you, I am protecting you. All right, Twitch, Yeetwood Mac. Y'all would need to bail me out if someone put hands on Mini Yeet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there's an officer so damn corrupt that another officer arrested him and then cut his shirt off of his body. Here's the video.
Now turn around here. Turn around and face me. You come to our jail and do this, this is what it's gonna get you. You're a disgrace to this uniform, and you need to go to jail for good. Anybody else, this is a warning. Come to our jail and bring this with you, and you will go to jail. We will prosecute you. Get out of here.
That should be standard operating protocol. Okay, so the sheriff, this is in Wayne County, Georgia. A Facebook video posted by the Wayne County Sheriff's Office showed the uniform shirt of Dayton Beasley being snipped off with a pair of scissors while he stood handcuffed. This has not made national news yet, so most of you are hearing about this for the first time. The video posted on the official website of the sheriff's office. That video was taken down, okay? And here's what the sheriff's office put up. I'm gonna read this. To all that has seen the video that we have removed, I want to say that the post was up as a show of transparency. When Sheriff Mosley ran, his platform included numerous pledges. One, which was transparency. We felt that everyone wanted to know what was going on and feels this video did just that. There was no property damaged that belonged to the young man shown. As far as embarrassment, I am sure he was embarrassed from the get-go. I have read where people said what was there, and even a picture showed up of a drug-related items. All I can say is the truth will come out as to what all was involved in the charges. Sheriff Mosley in no way knew that the video was being posted. It was a decision made on other levels. For the ones that supported the post, thank you for your support. And for the ones that opposed the post, I apologize. Damn those apologies. Why are we apologizing? You all do that routinely to individuals who are not officers. I mean, making sure that video was posted. I've seen it on Facebook and Twitter accounts of police departments for years. Why does he get any special treatment because he's an officer? I think it was the right move. You want the guy going to your jail with your damn uniform on? That's what you want him to do? Cut it off. Sounds like protocol to me. Sounds like it should be a written procedure somewhere that if one of our cops gets arrested, we have to go ahead and cut his shirt off before we put him in the same jail that he works at, okay? Here's the details of the arrest. Beasley's arrest was the result of a 2-week investigation into contraband items at the Wayne County Jail, conducted by the Sheriff's Office and the Jessup Police Department. WSAV reported, according to a news release, Beasley was charged with violation of oath of office, trading with inmates without consent of the warden or superintendent, and crossing the guard line with a controlled substance. We're talking about drugs, ladies and gentlemen, with a controlled substance. Corrupt individual. If the allegations are true, extremely corrupt. No telling what else he was doing or favors or how he was mistreating particular inmates in order to favor other inmates. This is gang activity, ladies and gentlemen. That's what he became, or at least that's what he was. John, what are your thoughts?
The entire thing is just amazing. Like I'm not used to seeing anything like that. Yeah, I agree with you about the special treatment and the message and stuff like that. It sort of undercuts what could have been just a moment of, it's not even a good moment. It's a bare minimum moment that we don't see often enough with law enforcement, where they actually take their obligations and their responsibilities really seriously. Like they should love doing this sort of thing, showing how obviously they're accorded a great deal of, like, that they can use lethal force if they want. They have that, but a lot of responsibility is supposed to come with that. It almost never does. They're actually acting on that. It's a strong image. Obviously, like it was done sort of theatrically. It actually reminds me of, I'm gonna make a reference nobody's gonna know. There's a classic episode of Married with Children where Al Bundy becomes a security guard at a high school, and when he accidentally lets he goes in the bathroom for too long, so somebody sneaks in and steals stuff. They come up and they like rip his lapels off, they rip his sleeves off, and he has to walk away in shame. Like imagine if you were seeing stuff like this happen. Like not just because of the controlled substances, but like there's a cop who's like beating someone and the other cops take him and they're like, no, we're doing our cops version of citizen's arrest. We're gonna tear your tie off and all that. Like show you don't get to wear the uniform that we do. That would be strong. I would love to get used to that.
And here's a great irony in the context of how we look at police misconduct. He got stripped of his literal uniform. He has been arrested. I think the sheriff's department is serious about prosecuting him. But let's be very clear. We have never seen anything like this happen to an officer or a member of law enforcement as it relates to a civilian who has been brutally injured or even killed on video, murdered by a member of law enforcement. This happened in the context of a sheriff's office and a jail, okay? Yep. So it's a little bit different here, but maybe it creates a trend, because you're right. They kind of missed an opportunity here, John. They could have created clarity and great articulation as to who they are and who they are not. But instead, they still showed you in the midst of the prosecution of a bad guy that we're willing to treat him differently than other bad guys. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're totally right. And the fact that they seem to take drugs more seriously than violence, that's a disturbing little angle on it, totally.
Yep, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Hey, listen to me. We don't play games here anymore, okay? Next time you ever talk to me like that, you're going to get your ass kicked by my family. They're going to f*** you up.
What did I do?
Right. They're going to f*** you up.
What did I do?
Because you are... Look at the whole stairs to yourself.
You had these stairs and
Why don't you go somewhere else where you can go to a gym? This is not just for you.
Oh, you
Get the f*** out of this world. Get the f*** out of this state. Go back to whatever f***ing Asian country you belong in.
Okay, race.
Bitch, this is not your place. This is not your home. We do not want you here. You put that on Facebook. I hope you do, because every f***ing person will beat the crap out of you from here on out. Don't you ever say, oh, Jesus, to me when I want to use the stairs, you little bitch.
There's other stairs.
You are a sick, ignorant teenager.
So extreme. Anti-Asian hate, ladies and gentlemen. This Karen is a throwback Karen, but also a serial Karen. My amazing production team was able to find the name of this 56-year-old Karen. Her name is Lena Hernandez of Long Beach. Quite interesting what happened here. You saw it unfold. The incident started because the young lady who was stretching said, oh, Jesus. And it caused all of this. Now remember, this Karen is saying all of this, oh, it's because I need to use the steps and you don't own the place. And that's just the pretext. Remember, the commonality is they want to put folks in their place, so to speak. The true motive started to come out. Go back to whatever Asian country you came from. See, that's the actual motivation. Had nothing to do with stretching, had nothing to do with the steps, had everything to do with racism and ethnicity. That's what this comes down to. The incident took place on the morning of June 10th, 2020 in Wilson Park in Torrance, California. Sweet Tea explained on Twitter, there is no backstory. My friend records her workouts often and she said she jumped on the stairs. The text exchange shows the woman who was the victim of the racist tirade said, she was so mad at the world, I don't get it. She walked into me, I said, Jesus, and there she went. So literally the Karen walked into this victim, all right? It gets deeper. Remember the comments, okay? This is important. You get the whole stairs for yourself? Why don't you go somewhere else when you can go to a gym? Why don't you go somewhere else when you can go to a gym? This is not just for you. Torrance Karen continues, get the F out of this world. What? Out of this world? You own the world, Karen? Not the whole damn world, Karen. Get the F out of this state. Go back to whatever effing Asian country you belong in. So here's your update. The Torrance mayor, Patrick Fury, said the Torrance Police Department is in fact investigating the situation. Public safety is a high priority in the city of Torrance, Fury told KABC. And all visitors to our open spaces should always feel safe and free to exercise while practicing social distancing without conflict. Conduct like that displayed on the video cannot be tolerated. We strive to deliver essential services to our community with integrity, honesty, and respect for all users. Well, this Karen does not agree with you, and we were able to find more video of this particular Karen. Let's play it.
Great. Did you just make a racist comment?
You know what? I am not a racist person.
You just made a
But you know
racist
what?
comment.
You need to go home.
I am from here.
Look at, go home.
I am here from here.
Go home. I don't care about.
Do we have a picture of her? Just a still shot? Okay, all right, we'll put it up in post. I just want to make sure you know who to avoid if you see her in these streets, okay? That's a dangerous person. All right, John, your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, we might not know exactly what her face looks like, but we know the uniform of the Karen. She got the whole package there. I'm sure that these people, when they see her walking towards them, know at least some of what's gonna come. The serial Karen, it's been sad to see the rise of that. I know New York City has one. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yes.
People whose whole, like some people during the pandemic got into like sourdough starters. Other people got into serial Karening. It's a weird hobby. I guess it's cheap. I know people look for cheap hobbies, but no, in particular, there was this like string of things in California specifically of you could not be an Asian person exercising outdoors seemingly without somebody harassing you during the pandemic. And obviously a lot of those incidents went beyond just horrific racial verbal abuse into actual violence. And I don't know if there's any sort of easy solution, anything politicians can do other than to take seriously the incidents when they happen individually. But clearly we have a problem that we're producing so many people that are so messed up in a variety of ways that they have to just go out to a park looking for someone to inflict it on. Like if that woman stretching hadn't been there, some incident would have happened. She would have had some problem with someone. And the woman in New York City, she does not miss. When she goes out, she finds someone to get into it with. And I don't know what the solution to that is, and I don't know to what extent it's a government thing. But socially, we got to figure something out. We can't go on like this.
Well, that's what we're doing right here, John. You see, some things can only be handled in a limited way with the court of law. And then the court of public opinion has a way of shaping social narratives and correcting social behavior as well. So you're part of that solution here. All right, we got more on the other side. Stick and stay. It's indisputable.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Jank. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Welcome Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Yep, welcome back. Good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. Thank you for engaging with the show. Don't forget today after Indisputable, make sure you catch Ray Actions with Ray Vonda. That's 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/TYT. All right, make that happen. Also later today, I need you to watch the conversation. Special conversation today. The conversation live today, 5:30 p.m. 2:30 Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, tyt.com/live. This is before the Young Turks, okay? David Schuster investigates why the Taliban is still on Twitter, all right? Make sure you subscribe and watch all interviews at youtube.com/TYT conversation, all right? Okay, TYT member, I'm a damn lib says, I like that the word is specified. This is just so true though. I like that the word is specified without consent. Was this kid undercutting the powers that be? LOL. But it did say that. It said he did all of this without permission. That's basically what the docket said. Okay. I caught that too. YouTube super chat. Thank you for that kind super chat. Musketeer K9 PTS dogs for vets. Happy Dog Day. Please talk about Pause Act being signed. I'm a veteran with PTS and a service dog trainer providing dogs for PTSD. Any veteran watching this channel and suffering should know that starting next year, they can get $25,000 for a service dog. Boom, you just talked about it. Thank you for that insight and thank you for what you do. Forbes says, it's fairly standard for CEOs to bring in contraband because they don't make ish at the job. My bestie and I have both been on the inside, seen it. Chill Will, thank you for making us Glenwoodians look good, Dr. Richie, from East Lake Meadows to the 285 flea market. Glenwood certified here, Glenwood's finest. And I appreciate the hood watching the show. Thank you. All right, Jason, pronounced Jason. Dr. Richie, you are gonna have to keep your eye on John. He is strong arming elderly women on a fixed income into giving him money. Oh my God. JK, love the show. He has that charm about him. He can't help it. It's just natural. All right, he's not doing it intentionally. All right, Vanessa Maldonado, imagine if this was done to every police officer who commits brutality out there. Make examples out of them and the rest will fall in line. Yep, Dwayne Perry, Dr. Rashad is the uncle I wish I had. Well, Dwayne, just call me Unc and make believe. All right, that's what you can do. Thank you for that. Twitch, Fascist Killer says, the serial killers are the worst. They are. Trey Fields too. Wow, she is not a racist person, but you are doing racist things and say racist words. So, all right. This is just such a weird story. A Florida doctor is selling anti-mask opt-out letters for $50 a pop. Okay, I kid you not. An emergency room physician is charging $50 for mask opt-out letters to Leon County parents for their children who have been removed from the school system because they don't have a mask. So he's saying, hey, give me $50, I will give you this excuse. It's a scheme, a scam, it's corruption is what it is. All right, Dr. Brian Warden. Listen, before I get into all of this, y'all, this man went to damn medical school, okay? Understand, he got a whole lot of years of education behind him. But as my grandmama would say, he don't have walking around sense. This man literally broadcasted the illegal activity. Let me show you what he did here. Dr. Brian Warden posted a notice on a statewide anti-mask site inviting Leon County parents to contact him if they need a medical exemption letter. In another post, Warden said he would provide a medical opt-out letter on signed stationery for $50 damn. Here's a screenshot of one of the posts advertising this illegal service. This guy's public offer was in response to a new local mask mandate. The Leon School's superintendent, Rocky Hanna, announced Sunday that students in grades K through 8 must wear a mask. That's your mandate to school unless they had a medical excuse amid a surge in cases, hospitalizations, and death. And the death over the weekend of a Canopy Oaks elementary school student. Okay, that's the right call. That's the right call for the school system, right? So what does this medical doctor do? This is a money-making opportunity for him, okay? And so he decides, hey, let me post that I will give anyone a medical exemption letter, $50, just $50. John?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're
more
fine.
horrible facts.
He has been removed from the medical center that he works for. They learned of the actions and said, we begin the process of removing the guy already.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you've taken that one source for these off the market. So I guess the other doctors can charge a little bit more who are gonna step into this. It's Florida, they're terrible. They're gonna be there. There's training for a lot of jobs, but not every job has like rules that are so clear that like maybe I can test this, maybe I can start it and you tell me. So if you're a doctor, first blank, what is it? It's do no harm. They have like one rule, do no harm.
Do no harm.
But they never said you couldn't do harm for like $50. So this doctor made the decision. Yeah, and like he's doing this in Florida, which is like the worst spot for it. They're doing worse now than they've ever done in the pandemic. And he's made the decision that, like, yeah, sure, some of these kids might die, or maybe they get COVID and they give it to their grandma or something. So that sucks. I guess I should at least get $50. Like, you can't charge more to potentially allow for the death of a person. Doctors should value life a bit more than $50 a pop.
Let me tell you, man, this is akin to like a dope dealer advertising his cocaine prices.
Yeah.
I don't get it. You know this is a violation of law. You know it's a violation of your ethical code of conduct. You know that it's a violation of policy at the medical center you work for. It's a violation of public trust. And you post it publicly and advertise your price publicly, you gotta go. You gotta go.
100%. You know, I just saw recently what some of the cruise lines that they say if you're coming from Florida, you have to give proof of vaccination. Some of them are saying, yeah. Okay, well, so what's that going to be? Is that going to be $100? Like if the mask exemption is 50, we can't have any standards for our fellow Americans.
Where does it stop? If you let this guy get away with it, where does it stop? Okay, an anti-masker parent arrested during a Palm Beach school board meeting. This was in Palm Beach County. A man was arrested for disturbing the peace, resisting an officer, and trespassing at a school board meeting. Let's go to the video. So he was sitting in the no mask section. Yep, there's a no mask section now at school boards, okay? That's what's happening. He was standing, let me correct it. He would not sit down, he would not follow the instructions of that meeting. WPBF 25 news crew at the scene witnessed Mr. Everett William Cooper, let's put up a picture of this guy, being escorted out of the area where the public was able to sit for the meeting. Okay, he was seen being forced out of the room by officers and then escorted from the premises in handcuffs while saying he was arrested for not sitting down. Well, he was arrested for disorderly conduct. And here's the thing, this is what happens. This is really the way it should be enforced, okay? This is getting out of control. They are not respecting the rules of any public gathering whatsoever. And they're getting away with it routinely in the United States of America. They're getting away with it so much that it seems normative. And when somebody gets arrested for a disorderly conduct charge, it seems abnormal. No, this is what happens when you do things like that in a space that has rules. John?
You're 100% right. Like, wait, he got arrested? One of the people who disrupted this stuff got arrested? And he got arrested for not sitting down. We've seen footage of people like surrounding cars outside of the building and shouting, "We're gonna get you," and they're seemingly fine. Yeah, we can't have any standards. And normally some of this antisocial behavior might have been mitigated by people being horrified at the prospect that others would find out that they went and tried to punch a kid at a school, or went to a school board meeting and shouted about the Nuremberg laws and about the soul of the wind going through your bones and all the nonsense they say. But every one of those people is like dead sure that the people that agree with them are gonna love that stuff. No matter how barbaric they look, no matter how ignorant they look, they get the cheers. They potentially get crowdfunding for their legal bills and everything. Like none of the shame stuff seems to work anymore. So I'm not sure, other than hopefully the cops getting involved potentially, I don't know what we're supposed to do about it, Dr. Rashad.
You know, all of these people are connected to families. They have families, they have friends, and I guarantee you all of their family members do not agree with them. All of their friends or their associates they have, they don't completely agree with them, right? You're correct, John. The video, the camera being there, it does not have the impact it used to have. There was a time that there would be a level of social shame connected to this kind of behavior. You have a 50-year-old dad putting his hands physically violent against a girl, a child at a school. That is, settled as hell to the gnaw, right? Mm-hmm. He knew he was being recorded. As a matter of fact, when he did it, he himself was recording the incident as well, all right? And still committed to that activity. So here's what I see may happen. Yes, law enforcement, they have to step it up. They have to treat it seriously, but also the family members who are embarrassed by these people, the friends or associates who are embarrassed by these people, they have to also get involved and they have to say, and listen, I don't like being preachy, but shame on you. right? There has to be a penalty in society. John, I'll let you get the last word, brother.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hope that that's one of the few things on a personal level you can do is try to incentivize good behavior and disincentivize bad behavior in your social circles. But we also know that some of these movements, like the QAnon people, one of the things they become really savvy at is turning people against their families and making them question the sanity of everyone around them. So it's a big task, obviously, but potentially the future of some of the people you love might be at stake.
You're the man, John. Thank you, brother, for doing a double header today. I appreciate
Thank you always. It's the fastest 60 hours of news that raced by. But thank you for inviting me on.
There you go. Thank you, my friend. We got more on the other side. It's Indisputable. Stick and stay.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think my dad's Oldsmobile, and I parked it in a place where there was 2 cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all 3 cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the 3rd car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, for this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah, I'm like this, I hit 3 cars, I don't know. So you guys gotta come help me, okay? Okay, so 1, my bad, really sorry about that. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't wanna keep hitting your cars and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat. Out.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning and that weren't afraid to say, hey, this is something that is legitimate.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
Brent Welder is very progressive Democrat. He's a just Democrat, in fact, uncorrupted, not going to take big corporate PAC money. When did you start watching this show and when did you become a member?
So I've been watching for 10 years, an active viewer, but also more importantly, getting out there with causes like Wolfpack.
By the end of our campaign, we had organized about 22,000 individual contributions with an average about $27 a piece. And those initial people were a lot of TYT supporters as well.
In looking at the world in a very different way than corporate media does.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Thank you to TYT and all the progressives around the country that have our backs.
You know, the first and only interviews that we had tonight to be with the Young Turks as well, because you guys have been here from the very beginning, and that's what this night is all about.
And I thank Cenk very much for the very good work that he does.
Thank you so much for all in this together, and the people are so powerful, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you for your constant support.
It's a pleasure to be with rebels. I like that.
For all of the help that you've given to the Just Democrats, to Wolfpack, to help fellow progressives, thank you guys, to all the Young Turks members that make it possible.
Hey, this is Edwin. Most of you might recognize me, well, not me, mostly my laugh from the main show.
I mean, it's gonna be hard to get the Uygur maneuver on him.
And today, my talent is Rubik's Cubes. You gotta forgive me, it's been at least 5 years since I've competed. So that's why I'm actually going pretty slow. Watch this.
Hold up, welcome back. All right, we got a lot of comments. Let's get to what you all are saying, okay? TYT member, funk in for fun. Karens don't step to me. I wonder why. You might have that look, you know what I mean? Okay. YouTube super chat. Not that Karen Dragon says, Unc Rashad, there you go. Nana Nikki S says, Texas father strips to his underwear during school board meeting to argue for mask. Is that a real thing? I haven't seen that yet. Is that real? Somebody tell me, is that real? Okay, we got to find that video. M. Teresa Lopez, schools should totally be closed. My great niece gave COVID to her grandfather. He is in the hospital, but thank God he is stable. Thank God he's stable. All right, I'm glad your niece is okay too. Reese Eaton says, is it any wonder that we have school shootings and guns in schools when we can't even trust the parents to have a debate without police needing to stop violence? Yep. Okay. BLWS, another Palm Beach County school in 2 days. Yesterday, it was St. Paul Academy II in Boca Raton. Welcome to our world. Twitch, Mapwa. It is sad that school board meetings need security and police now. It's real. Donkey teeth Beatles. People thought I was being mean when I said I hope this state I live in sinks into the ocean. It's still mean though. All right, it's still kind of mean. But I understand what you're saying. We got more on the other side. Stick and stay. It's indisputable. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, we have Mr. Kenny Xu, author of Inconvenient Minority and president of Color Us United. Kenny, good day. Welcome to Indisputable.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're going to chop it up about critical race theory, affirmative action, and maybe also get into the movement to stop Asian hate. I don't want to presume what you know or believe about these topics. So if you would, give us some background to your perspective as it relates to critical race theory.
Well, I care about race. I care about racism. I care about efforts to fight racism. But now we have a new racism, an elite racism against Asian Americans that is being done in the name of diversity and inclusion. I know you care about, and your listeners care a lot about racism, but I want to take it a step further, and I want to challenge your listeners a little bit. Because what happens when a program designed to address racism, which is Harvard's and Ivy League colleges' affirmative action programs, which give racial preferences to Black and Latino Americans, unfairly impinge upon the rights of other Americans, including other minorities. In this case, these are Asian Americans, in which Asian Americans have to score 440 points higher on the SAT to have the same chance of admission as a Black person at Harvard. So at this point, you're getting one person's rights to diversity and inclusion trampling upon another person's rights, and I don't think that that's fair.
You know, that's interesting, and I've read some of your work about the Harvard University discrimination practices or the element that connects Harvard University to even more extreme discrimination when it was trying to do the opposite, or at least that was the intent. Mm-hmm. And I studied some of this a couple of years ago in my doctoral classes, so I'm familiar with it. But how does that relate to critical race theory, or does it not relate at all?
Well, it suggests that Asian Americans are an inconvenient minority to critical race theory, right? Because critical race theory, it asserts, and there are varying definitions of critical race theory, but in large part, it is a challenge to the Western liberal idea of equal rights, individual rights. Critical race theory prefers to look at people in terms of racial groups in that sense. But the issue of looking and then granting certain preferences to people of racial groups is that, especially in the case of Harvard, but also in the case of other Ivy League colleges, elite public schools like Thomas Jefferson High School, when you're trying to enact diversity and inclusion in favor of one race, you are trampling against the rights of another race. Okay. So I think that this is how it's relevant to critical race theory, because Asian Americans have simply become a minority that is ignored within this framework because they are successful at their educational standards.
Well, let me push back on that, because I think you're conflating two things that don't necessarily go together. You're talking on one side about the theoretical framework, which is critical race theory. Critical race theory includes any group that's not part of the mainstream social order of dominance or authority in that system. The application or the implementation of the remedy or supposed remedy by a particular agency does not speak to critical race theory. I think you're making critical race theory a villain here, when the truth is, in its purest form, critical race theory as a theoretical framework poses a question, and it encourages you to analyze or critically think. And it says, based on the systems that were created, even if you were to eliminate racism or individual racist people, you would still have unequal outcomes in the United States of America because of how the systems were created, and they were created rooted in bias. I think that's something that you and I can agree with.
Does critical race theory consider Asian Americans a marginalized group?
Say that again?
Does critical race theory consider Asian Americans a marginalized group?
It does, yes.
Okay, so if you want to help a marginalized group like Asian Americans, right? You would want to at least not unfairly impinge upon their rights to admissions to colleges, right? But the issue is when you create a program that gives racial preferences to certain races like Blacks and Hispanics, you are impinging the rights of Asian Americans, another marginalized group.
So let me ask you this: you're okay with the dynamic? You're saying it's not as inclusive as it should be to our Asian brothers and sisters. Is that your point?
Well, that's one angle in which I can come from. Yeah.
Okay, but is that your angle? Is that the point you're making about some of these institutions and their application of diversity inclusion?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's a fair point. I don't think many of these institutions or even agencies, especially corporate America, are doing it properly. So you don't get in a debate here from me about that. I don't think anybody has done it holistically properly. But I do believe that the analysis of critical race theory is still an important analysis to understand the what, to understand why did we get here in the first place? Why is there a challenge in the inequity and the origin of that inequity? I think that's important to examine if you actually want to get to a remedy. You can't throw out that examination, correct?
And that's fine. That's fine using a critical race theory analysis. But the Asian American challenge to the critical race theory analysis is, okay, well, if America is a country that is founded upon white supremacy, why would a group of white supremacists let a group of minorities, which are Asian Americans, get ahead of them in things like educational attainment and things like average household income? Asian Americans are higher than whites in both. And I don't think that a white supremacist structure or a structure based in white supremacy would allow a minority to get ahead of them.
So let me get this right.
The answer to me is that America, the answer to me is that America cannot be a country that is continually having white supremacist structures if it allows these kinds of inconvenient facts to come.
That's really interesting. You're utilizing the microcosm to explain a macrocosm. In doing so, you invalidate the not only statistical data, but the personal stories of Black Americans all throughout this country. So let me give you another perspective here, okay? Stanford University did a study. Berkeley University did a study. University of Chicago did a study. University of California did a study. They did a research study that had the exact same result. It showed that individuals who had either foreign sounding names or what they called Black sounding names and what employers called ghetto sounding names, they received fewer callbacks. As a matter of fact, they received 50% fewer callbacks from the would-be employer. These were Fortune 500 companies where these applications went. All of these applications were fictitious. When they changed the name, it's called whitening the resume. When they changed the name and kept every other educational and experiential credential in its place, these companies called back with a rate of 50% higher or more.
That's fine. And by the way, I've seen the same studies about Asian Americans too. You have
I just said foreign sounding names. Asian Americans were included in this study, sir.
Well, okay. So the point is, of course there is, there's discrimination and racism. Of course, I care about that a lot. But you have, races, Black Americans who have historically been discriminated against, Asian Americans who have historically been discriminated against, and yet Asian Americans are able to, in large part, on average, live pretty healthy, successful lives in terms of these kinds of things, and that cannot be explained by a critical race theory framework, because that goes deep down into culture and hard work, and those are things that you have to consider as well.
I do find it quite interesting, and I do appreciate your commentary about it. I do find it quite interesting that because there are some dynamics, obviously, as to Asian American success, in which I agree and applaud that because of those dynamics of success, in some way, according to your narrative, it invalidates the white supremacy that exists against Black and brown people in the United States. You do realize that Asian hate crimes are up by 169%. Now, do you not think that has an attribution to white supremacy in the United States of America?
Okay, anti-Asian crimes are up 190%, but here's the thing. 28% of those crimes against Asian Americans were perpetrated by Black Americans. 25% of them were perpetrated by white Americans. So there's actually more anti-Asian crimes from Black Americans than from white Americans. So how is that? You know what?
Let me tell you this, brother. I've been an advocate for the Asian community for years. You can go on my Facebook feed right now. Yeah. Anybody can check it out right now. Rashad Richey Facebook page. When I stand with the Asian community, I have black folk and white folk calling me out for doing so. Anti-Asian hate, you gotta remember, it is institutional and systemic. There are a whole lot of black folks that think like white supremacists. Candace Owens, Jesse Lee Peterson, Larry Elder. I can go down the list, brother. So you're saying
white supremacy
hold on,
isn't
brother. I'm
really
gonna explain
about
myself. I will explain my point of view. Kenny, you finish? Go ahead, what were you saying? Because obviously what you're saying is more important.
You said that white supremacy exists in people like Candace Owens. So white supremacy isn't really about the skin color of the person then?
White supremacy, sir, and I say this often on my show, Candace Owens is the #1 white black supremacist in America. White supremacy is an ideology, it's an ideological framework as well, rooted obviously in skin color, that's your genesis. It's rooted in an idea, a philosophy, a narrative that suggests somehow that white skin makes you privileged. But that white skin that supposedly makes you privileged also creates a psychological dynamic inside of those individuals that has been mimicked by others that do not have that white skin. We have had this dynamic for years. That dynamic is included in damn near every culture in the United States of America and beyond. There are people that adopt the narrative.
People who disagree with you think like white supremacists.
There are people who adopt the narrative of their oppressors all the time.
Right. So people who disagree with you are white supremacists.
No, you disagree with me. You're not a white supremacist, I don't believe.
Well, I don't think I am.
Okay, but you just said that people disagree with me.
A white supremacist.
Wait a minute, Kenny. You just said that people disagree with me, they are white supremacists. No, you disagree with me. I don't think you're a white supremacist. I don't think you are promoting white supremacy. I just think you're misguided and misinformed about the plight of black folks in the United States of America. And also, if you look at statistical data even from Asian Americans, 81% of Asian Americans believe that there is a rise of white supremacy hate against Asians. You're in the minority as it relates to your own community, brother. That's you. I'm not calling you a white supremacist for that, but you're not in the majority as it relates to the thinking of the Asian culture.
Well, I care about the facts, and I prefer to take a look at the facts and objective realities as they are. And the objective realities is that the Asian American proves an American success story. This is a story that should be celebrated because a minority is able to achieve and minorities are able to achieve in this country. By the way, plenty of black Americans also achieve in this country. In fact, the black graduation rate for black women is higher than for white people. People don't know that. The graduation rate failures are largely attributed to, unfortunately, black men who were born into single parent families. And so these are issues and inconvenient facts that we need to talk about as well. If we're going to talk about critical race,
we're going to talk about another data set.
Talk about the American dream.
Let's talk about something you ignored. Black women are now the fastest growing demographic in the United States of America, not only for graduation, but also for business ownership, entrepreneurship, fastest growing, okay? Out of every race in the United States. Black women are also the least paid, based on their counterpart with the same education and same experience of a white male. They are not only the least paid, they are also the least likely to receive promotion with the same education or even more education. They are paid 68 cents on the dollar of their white male counterpart. These are actual statistics as well that you conveniently ignore when you promote a stat that fits your narrative. The truth is the graduation rates, they are increasing, but the job market is still saying that we engage in discriminatory activity against these particular individuals. How do you reconcile the numbers of increased graduation, which means increased education, to the fact that black women can't even get as much money for the same experience and education as their white counterpart? They can't get a call back because their names sound black on the resume, and they're discriminated against historically as it relates to promotions in the workplace, more so than any other demographic in the United States.
Well, I don't ignore those statistics. In fact, I know that Asian men, especially men who come here with language barriers, actually face a 25% wage penalty in comparison to native-born men here. So I am not unaware of these statistics. But my solution, which I lay out in my book, An Inconvenient Minority, is not for people to passive aggressively self-victimize themselves, but for them to go and be entrepreneurs to start their own businesses. Part of the reason why Black women are so good at starting their own businesses is because of sort of this ignorance in the workforce, and I totally understand that. And I encourage a lot of my Asian American community, especially Asian men, to also go out and start their own businesses. I think that these are values that help to are conducive. But what we shouldn't do is we shouldn't blame one race or one people.
That's not critical race. That's not what critical race theory does. Critical race theory actually doesn't blame
for our own communities.
Kenny, critical race theory actually doesn't blame a race at all. It de-emphasizes individual racist people. It takes that totally away.
Individual racist people, but it talks about race all the time.
Kenny, I hope you appreciate the fact that I am a university professor, that I have been teaching critical race theory since 2016, and that I'm currently a professor that teaches critical race theory. Critical race theory does not emphasize individual racist people. It de-emphasizes people, period. It de-emphasizes individual racist people, and it emphasizes systems, structures, statutes, institutions, laws, corporations that are engaging in systemic bias, and much of it is considered implicit because it has been historically ingrained into those institutional norms. I need you to read up on CRT.
I don't want to believe in any ideology that de-emphasizes the individual, because in the end, everybody has their own choices and everybody has to make their own choices and take responsibility for their own choices. So I prefer to believe in something that actually emphasizes the individual.
Well, let me ask you about the choices of these companies that have engaged. Let me ask you about the choices of these companies that engage in systemic racism. Let me give you one data set.
Choices of who in these companies?
11.5% of job applicants of Asian descent received callbacks when their resumes included references of ethnicity and race. About 10% as it relates to Black folks. So Black folks, when they put down their race or ethnicity, they do not get as many callbacks. The potential employers increase that by over 50% when you whiten the resume. Asian Americans receive 21% increase immediately if they simply changed their name or they took off a particular part of their name. It went up by 21%. If they fully whitened their resume with the same credential and educational background, it went up by over 50%. Where does that come from?
Yeah, and Asian Americans, by virtue of having an Asian name, get discriminated against in Harvard. You can have the exact same application, and if you have an Asian name, you're discriminated against relative to if you had a white name. Of course.
So you agree that it comes from systemic racism?
Well, what's the solution to this?
But you do agree it comes from
we need to
racism.
pander and victimize and say this is what we need to do.
Not victimize.
No, the solution is we need to develop cultures of entrepreneurship and demand our place at the table through our merit.
Demand your place at the table. What about policy reformation?
What do you mean about policy reformation?
When you say you just have to demand your place at the table, people who have been marginalized historically have been demanding for a very long time. You don't get there just by demanding, you get there by changing policy.
This is what I believe in terms of policy. I believe in a colorblind meritocracy. I believe policy-wise, you should craft structures in which name, race are excluded. This means stop taking race into account.
You agree with critical race theory, Dan?
This means treating people on their objective merit, on their objective. This is what I've always believed, and this is what I advocate for.
When you're in a system, and thank you for saying that, Kenny. And my producer say I have 1 minute. When you're in a system that does not agree with the ideology that you just said, because in a perfect world that is full of utopia, what you're saying is correct. However, we live in a world with extreme bias, racism, prejudice, behavior. In that world, you have to do very intentional things to correct those modes. You have to do things to correct them. Simply saying you should be judged or you should be looked at based on your background and education and nothing else does not actually provide a solution to those who are already in power, to the rules that have been set, to the policies that are already codified and adversarial to those who have been historically marginalized. Simply saying do a better job does not work, brother.
I'll just have the last word on this, which is, I don't mean to say just be judged. I mean to say craft structures in which race is not a factor, in which you can minimize the impact of race by judging people on objective metrics. This is what I've always advocated for. This is why gifted and talented admissions should be about grades and test scores and should not be based on subjective, holistic evaluations. This is what I believe for hiring. This is what I believe for promotion. That's what I believe. I don't believe in the status quo, and hopefully we can find common ground in that.
We actually agree on more than what you think, because you're literally talking about significant dynamics that connect back to critical race theory, but you haven't made the connection yet. I'm out of time, but what I want to do is bring you back and let's dig into this subject in particular more. All right, I appreciate you being on the show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.